rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad. After her there ain't no coming back. Wanna take a run at that. I think she's feeling me, turn it up a few degrees. My imagination of her body gets the best of me. Oh gosh, she's such a tease, bitten lips, bruised knees. I'm addicted to her, need her touching me, cause she got a bad little waist. And we tearing down this place, off the liquor that we chase. Casamigos to the face, baby I don't need no space. Coming closer for a taste, and I'll show you how I make everything just fade away. Cause she's like sex, drugs, cocaine, body so insane. Jealous of the clothing that she wears up on a tight frame. All game, no shame.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the week. Episode 53.
Somebody's pulled it up on her phone.
I do it all the time.
She likes to watch the chat and respond to people while we're in lives.
Sure, absolutely. Help yourself. So we are episode 53. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are sitting with Riding the Ozarks and the lovely Miss Firecrackers joining us. So, you know, we're bringing up the channel a bit. So that's good. So what's going on, guys? How you been?
Good. We got to do one rally already this year. We went to Spring Fling in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. That was a good time. This weekend, we're headed to Kansas City for a $5,000 poker run.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, Law Tigers is involved. I heard they're helping with that. It's taking place starting out. They got a Harley-Davidson dealership up there. We're at Harley-Davidson involved, and that's like the start and stop point. But they're doing some stuff on Friday and Sunday that's kind of separate, you know, some rides and things. But on Saturday, it's a $5,000 poker run. So
wow.
We're not really going just to try and win money, but I wouldn't mind. You know.
Firecrackers like, yeah, we are.
She did the poker run at Spring Fling. We went to I don't know if you've seen the Switchback bar. I've had it in some of my videos, and the Badgers are there. Andy went on the world record poker run, the owner of the Switchback bar, him and his wife, Carrie, and they're in the Eureka Springs area. And we were at their place on Saturday during Spring Fling, and they had a poker run, and somebody got low hand and paid out $400 for low hand.
Nice.
So she's all like, yeah, I'm going to a poker run. I want some more money.
Nice. See, I never win any of that stuff. I have no luck at all. And then you were saying before you went on, you won a pair of boots this weekend too.
Yeah, well, the sign up or the entry was
lucky.
last week, and they announced them on Monday. HD footwear. You know how that stuff is on Instagram. Everybody tags everybody. There's a giveaway. And Monday they Toby Northern. I think I saw him, you know, tag me before I saw the tag from HD footwear. But Toby Northern won. I won. Sinister Clutch won, and I didn't know the other two people, but I knew. You know, I've met Toby and Sinister Clutch in person. So three of us have all met because Sister Clutch and Toby did the world record poker run together.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's a great way to start your week. Who doesn't like free stuff?
I'm telling you. And it was like, here's a coupon code. Go to our website, pick any pair of shoes you want. Put in the coupon code. No tax, no shipping, no nothing. Bang. Any pair you want.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So I guess before we get too deep into this, why don't you give us the elevator pitch? Tell us about your guys' channels. Tell us what you do, who you are.
So I've been doing YouTube for 2.5 years now, roughly.
Okay.
We went to Sturgis in 2019, and I recorded some. We got back. I created the channel, but I didn't really post anything till about October of 2019. So October will be 3-year anniversary for the channel, really, from putting up videos. And I was surprised. I was able to hit 1,000 subscribers in just under a year. So it's 8,000 subscribers now on Riding in the Ozarks. Firecracker has a channel we started last year, but she doesn't make as many videos as I would like her to. I have to push her a little bit. She's camera shy. Now, if you get a half a bottle of, Crown Royal apple in there, she loosens up a lot. But then you can never tell what she might say on camera.
Yeah, and then we probably don't want her on a bike, so I guess it's a double-edged sword.
Well, we can do shop videos. We don't have
to
be on the bike. So she got a new sport glide. She's been test riding them. Can't trust Midwesterners. Look at this guy. You know, he used to live 100 miles from us.
Yeah.
So
Remember when he was humble? He's not humble anymore. He's just, he's back though. He's back in the States. We're glad to have him back.
Yeah, he dropped in a live we were doing one night and hung out. He didn't like get in the live, but it was in the chat and stuff. We all got to visit and talk about, runs in St. Louis and things that we knew, in common and stuff we've gone to up there and stuff. But
nice.
so yeah, for a year and a half, 2 years, she's been test riding bikes every time we get to a demo event. And we'd made a few videos. And then in February, we found her a used sport glide, which was what she has fallen in love with. And we went and picked it up at Pig Trail Harley-Davidson. So now we're doing a few shop videos on that and stuff like that. So
what did you come from before the sport glide rather?
2000 Dyna. Nice.
So what do you think? Big step up, or did you miss the Dyna at any level?
I just missed the sound of the Dyna. The sound, I just love the sound of it. So definitely got to get some new pipes on it. But other than that, the smoothness of it is just way better. It's a lot more if I want to ride longer. So
nice. Very nice.
If she misses a Dyna, she can actually go ride it because we didn't get rid of it.
Oh, okay.
You don't get rid of bikes, you just get more bikes, right? That's how Professional Monkey does it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the monkey method, right? You just keep buying bikes. It's fine. It's all fine. Just keep buying bikes.
She's got 2, and I've got 4.
Nice.
But one of mine doesn't run.
Oh, you still have it though. That's fine.
My very first Harley, I still own it.
There you go. So what Ford do you currently own?
I have a 16 Street Glide Special. That's my main ride.
Nice.
A couple years ago, I bought a DR 650 to be able to get off road a little bit, get back into some dirt riding and stuff. We have 60 acres that is pretty much 4-wheel drive, 4-wheeler or dirt bike kind of country to get into it. And of course, if I was going to ride a DR 650 off road, somebody's like, well, how am I going to go with you? Because I'm not riding on the back of that thing. So we ended up picking up a DR 200 for her to ride. I own it, but so she has a dual sport to ride and I have a dual sport.
Nice.
And I got my Street Glide, and then I've got my 1994 Harley-Davidson lowrider Evo engine. It was wrecked by one of my best friend in 2004 and up near St. Louis. Pro Monkey probably knows where Klondike Hill is. Outside of Science. But yeah.
Nice. So when did you start riding?
I started riding when I was 11 or 12.
Nice.
Dirt bikes. Bought my first Harley when I was 30, 31, something like that. Right after going to Sturgis with my dad on vacation, and I'm come back and I bought a Harley. That's nice. If you go there without a Harley, you come back and you buy one.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more American than going to Sturgis and buying a Harley. That's awesome.
She started riding 4 years ago.
Okay, how's that experience been for you? Now, were you someone that was passionate and wanted to do it, or did you kind of get sucked into it?
No, I wanted to do it. I just never had anybody to support me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Encourage me. So when me and Mike got together, he encouraged me and kind of started teaching me, and then I took the safety course. It's been a good experience. I was doing good, and then I had my big accident. So it set me back a little bit as far as my going around curves, things like that. After my accident, I got real nervous. I'm getting back to, but I'm very, very nervous, and I worry about riding places. And Mike's always encouraged me, like, you can do it. It's, and like, when we went to Arkansas, there was some of the curves on the road. I was like, they scare me to death. And he was like, and I keep telling him, I know I can do it, but I've got to get it out of my head and quit worrying about it. I just got to do it. And I do tell him sometimes he babies me a little bit, but he's always supportive. And like, when we went there, he was like, I'll be in front of you. You just, and we have we talking system. So he could kind of tell me, and he was sitting there kind of telling me, now we're going to do this. And then after I did it, I was like, wow, that wasn't near what I thought it was going to be, you know? And so I'm getting there slowly. So
that's great to have that kind of support, because I know a lot of people fail out of things because they don't have that support system. That's fantastic. So where do you guys like to ride? Do you spend, I mean, are you weekend or not weekend riders, but do you like to do overnights, or you just sort of here and there?
We do kind of a lot. I mean, we don't get to do a lot of long distance travel stuff. Like we did Sturgis in 2019, and I rode up and rode back, you know, the whole way. And she rode with me almost like 90% of it. We had a safety vehicle, and I think she spent a couple hours driving the safety vehicle because we were supposed to take turns. And then she got back on the bike and we didn't get her off. But around here, I mean, I get to ride to work and some, but it's only a 12-minute ride to work. And, you know, so it's not that big of a deal to ride to work, but, you know, we have a standing date night. Wednesday night is our date night, no matter what. That's one reason we don't ever get to sit in your chat.
Yeah, I heard that. So you guys are dart hustlers, I hear.
During the winter league, which lasts 8 months.
That's a long winter.
Yeah. So we've always been stuck on dart night, and that's why we had to wait till darts were over to get on the show.
Sure.
But that's our standing date night. So even when darts are over, like tonight, we'll go out and get dinner. We'll ride the bikes or do something, even if it's just for an hour. But we spend Wednesday night doing something together every Wednesday night, no matter what. Because on the weekends, you know, and some people don't realize, some people say, oh, your wife. Well, we're not married. We don't live in the same house. Okay. We both still have kids. We're both divorced, custody arrangements, things like that. My youngest is about to go off to college in August, and my situation's going to change some. And her daughter's got one more year of high school, and we're looking at what that looks like for us in the future and how we blend that stuff together now. But because of that, you know, her daughter's weekend stuff, my daughter's weekend stuff, or whatever, we just play it by ear. I see a lot of middle fingers in the pictures. That would be her. Well, now me occasionally, but you know, she likes to flip me off in the pictures. So
that's kind of mean, but it's date night. Yeah,
well, we're bikers. That's just making sure everybody's got tough skin. We don't want you to get weak. Keeping you tuned up. But you know, so Wednesday nights are date nights. So like, you know, last weekend we had a family reunion, so we didn't take the bike. We had the kids. But, you know, this next weekend, we're going to Kansas City. The weekend after that, we're doing a local poker run. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did a local poker run to raise money for vets.
Nice.
You know, we'll do stuff like that. If it's a weekend ride, a day ride around here is 250 miles a minimum, usually.
Nice.
You know, we don't have, like, people talk about electric motorcycles. I'm like, I'll never be able to own an electric motorcycle until they get the range over 100 miles, because there's no riding 50 miles here and then turning around and going home. Sometimes we ride 40 or 50 miles just to go someplace to eat, just to go to a different town.
Okay.
You know, so
we figure once the kids are gone, we'll be able to do more of the weekend getaways, go somewhere for a weekend. I'm really big into benefits. I love to support people however I can. So I enjoy doing that kind of stuff, but I also want to be able to get out and go see different parts of different places. And so we're hoping, you know, which with my daughter, it's pretty, if I want to go somewhere, I can, you know, pretty much go. It's not a big deal, but we try to spend the time with them while we can, because.
Yeah, I'm in the same position. I'm a year away from my son finishing high school, and things are going to get different and weird, and it's kind of exciting and scary at the same time. I totally get that.
Yeah. Well, you know, Dallas said he's not very far. I'd love to ride with this. You know, YouTube is a social media platform, kind of, but it's not very real time. You know, a lot of us do Instagram. I do Instagram and Facebook. Maybe because of my age or the fact I'm just on Facebook first. I'm probably more prolific on Facebook about what I'm doing, where I'm going. My Facebook is not drama. My Facebook is about motorcycles or friends, or you're out. That's it. I mean, if you start posting political stuff, I won't unfriend you. I'll just unfollow your post so I don't have to see it. And it's not that I care one way or the other. I feel my life, and, you know, I want to be immersed in things that make me happy. And that's motorcycles for the most part. So
yeah, and there's so much negativity on social media too. It's I mean, gosh, getting through the
YouTube,
last 4 years, it was terrible.
I get trolls on YouTube that call me a hillbilly dipshit, and whatever else, whatever. That's
Those are the best because you reply like, "Well, why do you feel that way?" So then they reply, and you just keep running the view count up.
I told this guy when he could crawl out of his mama's basement where I would be, I'll be at this event, this event, this event. Come show me what a punk I am. And it's just, I know he's not going to. It's just they're trying to get you a rise. And most of the time I ignore it, but every once in a while, it's just a little fun to poke the bear back.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Dave, how you doing, sir? No, absolutely. I feel bad for the people that troll because I'm like, if your life revolves around getting on YouTube and finding someone to troll, you really do need a life.
But like I said, like Dallas said, want to ride with us? Look us up on Facebook or Instagram. I have a group on Facebook called Riding in the Ozarks, and I have my own page on there, but I have a group on there where everybody posts stuff, and I encourage people in the Ozarks to share events there, to share with the community. If they have a poker run or a fundraiser they're doing or something else, to post it up in there so that everybody can, learn about it, be a part of it. The Big Ass Poker Run, Steve Bates is in the chat. They're in that group and they've been promoting their event in there. And that's what it's for, is to, just give people in the Ozarks a place to go to find out about, we had somebody comment in there yesterday. They're coming from Florida and they wanted to know where to go ride. And of course I commented, but so did 6 other people, hey, you should check this out. You should check this out. You should check that out. And I want to do more stuff on the channel that promotes riding in the Ozarks. Rallies. I cover the rallies in this area quite a bit. Bikefest, Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, Spring Fling we're doing now, things like that. But I want to start doing maybe I do some local rides. Like we went last year to Mammoth Springs. I did a video on that and stuff. But I want to be able to, when people ask me about where there is to go ride, say, oh, go watch this video. There's a place called Peel's Ferry, and it's one of the last publicly operated ferries where you can cross from Missouri to Arkansas. And it's a great ride. Here's a video on this, and you can go here and watch that.
Very nice.
I want to take the channel. I want to do more of that stuff in the future, but you also, we all know that sometimes if you're trying to grow the channel, you got to do things that grow the channel and not just things that are of interest to your existing audience.
Yeah, and I guess that's a tough balance, right? Because you don't want to isolate the people you have. Well, speaking of that, though, you have a very something that I've always enjoyed about your channel. You have a really good, for lack of a better word, ear to the ground on what's going on with Harley. I think that stuff's fascinating.
Well, I'm working on another video on that. Steve Bates got on me and asked me because I hadn't done anything about their financials in a while. And I'm working on that. I listened to their first quarter stuff happened while we were out of town at Spring Fling, and I looked at their year-end financials. And there's a few things there that I want to talk about and make people aware of. And yeah, people are interested in it. And I've had dealers ask me how I find stuff or how did I know about this? I know about they don't know about. And some of it's research, some of it is the community. People like the way I present it. So if they have something, they may share it with me because they know I will present it. I try to do it, in a fair and pretty unbiased way, especially if it's controversial. I try and look at both sides of the coin. It's kind of like when the new Sportster came out, the Nightster, everybody in the chat's going on about how the Scout's cheaper. Well, if you really look at apples to apples and you compare not a bobber, but a full bred Scout that has 3 inches of travel in the rear instead of 2, and you start looking at the specs and everything else, there's not that much difference in price between them. When you start really looking into it, you can say, oh, the Scout Rogue is, $2,000 cheaper. Well, yeah, when you buy it without ABS and with 2 inches of travel in the rear. When you go to a Scout with 3 inches of travel in the rear and ABS, you're talking a couple $100 difference, So
yeah.
And I don't hate against the Scout. I mean, I had her test ride one. I wanted her to look at them. I don't hate on any brand because of the brand. I mean, I might not like this motorcycle as much as that one or whatever else, but and I love my street glide. I mean, that's what I love, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with anything else. And I'll ride almost anything with two wheels.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's good that you found that audience and that you present it in a way that's engaging and not just for the sensationalized side of, Harley's falling apart.
Oh yeah. Well, I get that stuff, and they'll be talk about how Indians kicking Harley's ass, and I'm like,
No, they're not.
when Harley sells 6 motorcycles to every one Indian, that's your perception of it, and they are growing, but Indians' financial report last quarter wasn't too good, and they cited supply chain issues, which is what Harley-Davidson's dealing with.
Yeah.
It's all, everybody. I made this video about the Harley-Davidson plant shutting down, and you get people, I'm sure, who commented off the title and never even watched it. Things like Harley's going broke. Well, they made $415 million last quarter, but okay, if that's, they said some guy made a comment about their $23 million in debt. Well, I'm like, bro, it's more like 5 billion, but okay, whatever you get your numbers from, people they spit stuff out and do no research. And I really try and do the research. And if someone schools me on it, I'll be like, thank you for the information. I'll go look it up.
True. And I mean, and how many of those people are really financial analysts, right? You go in debt for a reason. I mean, that's the way business runs. I always find it amusing that everyone's convinced that the M8 was going to kill Harley, then the Revolution Max is going to kill Harley. It's always something that's going to kill Harley. Now, I don't know what it's like for you guys there, but we don't have a dealer network for Indian. Like even if I wanted to buy an Indian, there's nowhere to get it serviced.
Here there is one in Columbia, Missouri, which is 100 plus miles away, that's still working. I think there's an Indian dealer in St. Louis, and there's probably one in Kansas City. The one in Springfield just sold all their bikes in auction, closed up. Is an Indian power sports dealer. They sold all their inventory out at an auction within the last. Somebody told me it was a few months ago. I haven't been in there, but yeah, the dealer network is a problem. And then there's people, and I try and really be balanced about that. They'll say things like Harley's got the best dealer network in the world. Well, Honda's got the biggest dealer network in the United States. Actually, they've got a couple hundred more dealers than that. But what you run into in the rural areas, they're power sports dealers, and they're dealing with 4-wheelers and ATVs more than they are motorcycles. And then the city, they're dealing with motorcycles more than they are, and they have different kind of niches based on their customer base. So what's best is kind of subjective still, but it's. People talk about Indian being Harley's biggest competitor. Honda sells a third of the motorcycles in the world. You want to talk about who's your competition? I mean, people can say all day long that, well, people who are shopping for a Harley aren't shopping for a Honda, but that's not true. I get comments all the time from people who are like, I'm on a Rebel, and if I go to a Harley, which one do you think I should go to? Or what do you think about the 1100 Rebel versus this? I get people ask me, what bike do you recommend? And that's a really hard question. I tell them usually, I can point out based on size, maybe a bike that's going to be cramped or something else for them. But in the end, I tell everybody, go ride as many as you can. And the one that you keep going back to is the one that's right for you.
100%. Thank you, Junior, very much. That was very generous of you to send a super chat or super sticker. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I think people get caught up in what they want, what they visualize that they want versus what works for them. I had a buddy that bought a 1200 Sportster, and he launched it over a median within 8 miles of buying it because he was trying to learn how to use it. And he was completely convinced that he needed that Harley. But yet when he bought a scooter or he had a Versus 650, he did much better on those. But he was so locked in that he needed a Harley. And I feel bad for those guys.
I generally tell people who want to learn to ride, who've never rode or are trying to, learn to ride or have very little experience, that I recommend you go out and you buy a used Honda Cruiser 750 cc, maybe a 500 if you find a good deal on, but you tend to outgrow those pretty quick. But if you can find a 750 that's not too powerful, but it'll get you down the highway, that'll last you a couple years. And then you step up from there. But they're great bikes, and they're affordable. And if you drop them on the ground, you're not going to hate yourself.
Yes. And I think that's the thing too, right? Because we grew up in a generation where at least the people that I rode with told me when I was looking, oh, you need a 250. Well, I look like a gorilla on a bicycle at to 250. Like I barely passed the motorcycle safety class because I couldn't fit on the bike. I was basically on the back seat of it. I'm like, this isn't smart at any level, but
I bought a Rebel 250 one time to teach people to learn on, and there's a place half-mile up the road that inspects bikes, and I made her climb on the back, and we rode up there, and I said, we're doing our impression of Dumb and Dumber. Go pee on my leg.
You all cramped in there. Jeez.
But
that's funny.
Yeah, somebody mentioned in the comments, we were talking about channels, and I don't talk about it a lot. I did it when I first launched it, but I have another channel called New Bike Mike. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that one's really, I just talk about bikes that I like, and I kind of go through the specs of the tech, but I enjoy it because, I mean, no, I haven't rode all these bikes. Some of them I have. Some of them I've rode a bike that's similar to. I mean, if you've rode a street glide, you've rode an ultra, basically. I mean, they're a little different, but it's the feel and the ergonomics are not, factory, not much different. Things like that. So, but I talk about bikes that I like on there, bikes that I find interesting, and just sometimes it's about the technology. I hear people say, oh, you should buy a Honda, so much better value. Well, you're not probably going to get a lot of difference in the price when you're all said and done on a new Goldwing. You might feel like you got better tech or something else. You're not getting more power. It's not more powerful than a Harley. Probably the biggest thing it has is tech if you care about tech, but some people don't want that. That's just another thing, that can break and you have to take it to the dealer to get it fixed. People in Europe don't understand why we don't require ABS on every bike. Still, I get comments about that. Well, and if you look, and a lot of people don't realize it, but I learned this from New Bike Mike. Like when Indian launches bikes in Europe, the only bikes they sell over there are the ones that have ABS because of the European regulations. That's the only ones they can sell. They don't have the same offerings in Europe that they have in the U.S.
Interesting.
The Ford Glide got canceled in the U.S. and you can still buy it in a few markets, including Europe.
Interesting, because I know a lot of people were flipping out about the Harley RDRS system and saying, oh, I don't want the bike to think for me and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's, I think I personally find ABS on a bike to be a must, but it's just my opinion.
I loved link braking, going down the interstate at 75 mile an hour, and I need to brake. I don't take my feet off the foot pegs. I pull the front lever. It applies both brakes. It's no different. Different things, but I just did a video about the R18 Transcontinental, and I had done one on the BMW K1600. They're both BMWs. The R18 Transcontinental has adaptive cruise control available. They put a radar in the front fairing of it. The K1600, which has been around longer, didn't get that upgrade, and it's not available as an option on it. And that was something people complained about. Why didn't it get it yet? And I find things like that interesting. And, Harley gets all this hate for, coming out with a bike and not changing anything but the colors for 3 years. And I'm like, did you look at the last time Honda upgraded the, Rebel or the Goldwing? I mean, they go 5 and 10 years, without very significant upgrades sometimes on their touring models as well. But you don't see people screaming at Honda about why haven't you upgraded the frame?
Yeah. I mean, that's the weird thing with Harley is that I feel like Harley almost created its own monster, right? Their marketing is so brilliant that people expect such a different level from Harley, but then the traditionalists don't want new. So I don't know how you please that market, right? Because you can only change the color so many times.
Right. And it's like, it is back to the same thing that people don't even, I mean, I've talked to a sales dealer and we talked about, like, if you watch a Triumph launch on a new motorcycle, they cover specs and they talk about all the things they've changed in this new bike and everything else. You watch Harley roll out the Nightster and it's all about lifestyle and it's very little about specs. And that's how their salesmen approach people too. And they're like, and I've talked to some salesmen, they're like, we start talking specs and most of the people's eyes get glossy and they don't know anything about what we're talking about. And maybe I'm different. I'm a little more geeky on that stuff. I care. I like knowing that, the reason the Ultra rides better is because it's got a 13-inch shock in the back instead of a 12. And if I really want it to ride better, I can just swap out the shock, for $300 and I'm going to have a better ride. But most people don't know that and don't care about that.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, what you said, because I find like when you talk to a Harley dealer, Especially if you go in by yourself. It's all about the experience, right? Like when I was looking at a dyna before I rode a Harley, um, everything was like, oh, but if you get a Harley, you can join the hog chapter. You can have friends. Everyone wants to be your friend if you're in a Harley. And I'm like, like, this makes no sense. I mean, the guy basically told me I could get women if I had a Harley. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know it solved all these issues, but yeah, it's
Problems you didn't even realize you had.
yeah. I mean, I was like, I didn't know I had this problem. Then the guy got pissed at me. I'm like, well, I had a scooter and I had a girlfriend, and okay, whatever. Yeah, it's I almost think that their own worst enemy at this point,
Yeah,
because
sometimes they are, and some of it's like people are out there. Like I get a comment on and this is to me out of left field on the Harley plant shutting down. Someone's like, well, that's because they failed to update their technology and their bikes are old and junk. Why, and then they do V4 ? And I'm like, the V4 came out in a motorcycle in 1934, and Honda was using them in cruisers in 1980, 40 years ago. So I don't really consider that new technology. What is it about the V4 you want? Like variable valve timing that's in the Pan America and the Revolution Max engines that they just came out with in the last few years?
yes.
And the response I get is crickets.
Well, and I thought it was kind of weird too, because we were on I remember you were on the the Nightster one, at least we were both on it. But when they came out with the Pan America, I'm sorry, not the Pan America, when they came out with the launch this year, they kind of buried the lead with like adding quick shifting to the Pan America, stuff that I thought was really interesting, but they were too busy telling you about their jackets or, that stuff that I don't know.
Yeah, they don't get into enough details. They don't tell you, in my opinion, have you ever seen Harley-Davidson in a launch tell you about how they improved the suspension?
Mm-mm.
If you didn't do your research and read the press announcements or be a tech, would you know that the Harley-Davidson touring models got new front suspension when they went to the M8 platform? Some people will when they start researching suspension, but they didn't learn it because Harley-Davidson told them when they launched it, or they didn't make a big deal out of it. If they did, they might have said, oh, it's got, improved front suspension and handling. And that's their idea of, we covered that bullet point.
Gotcha. Now, do you think that that's because they don't give their audience enough credit? Do you think that they're still marketing to the older audience that just doesn't care? They're going to buy it because it's a Harley?
I don't know. I really don't think. My experience is the older crowd, the more experienced crowd cares more about that, because they're the kind of crowd that actually was more interested in working on their own motorcycle, where I think the younger crowd and, a lot of people younger than me are like, take it to the dealer, I'm not doing it. And the more it becomes, well, here's a prime example. A friend posted last night, he wants to add an oil cooler fan to his Harley, and he's looking for a dealer or a shop that can rewrite the ECM, because you have to flash the ECM to enable this oil cooler fan that you can buy from Harley-Davidson.
Yes.
But, it's, things like that. You can't just do it yourself. And even if you do it yourself, you've got to get somebody to flash your ECM, or you got to buy the tool to do it, or whatever else.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that's weird too. Like they advertise that you can upgrade the boom system, but then you have to take and get it flashed. And I'm like, well, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems like an awful, and it's going to be $100 before you get out of there, easy.
Yeah,
no matter what's involved.
The guy that tunes my bike is he actually used to work for Chattahoochee Harley-Davidson back before John Maxwell did. But he worked under the same owners that John Maxwell worked under, and he worked for a dealer up here, and he got fed up with him, and he left, and he took his dyno with him. It was his own personal dyno. He used to do rally circuits and dyno tune bikes and stuff, and he's got a tuner that he uses to rewrite the ECM, but it'll also flash your boom system, enable like the rear channel speakers and all that. He didn't know how to do it. I found the instructions and told him what to do, and we hooked it up and we did it together. But because it's not what he does. He's a tuner guy, but he's got the equipment to do it.
Interesting.
But this is the first I heard about having to flash the ECM to be able to enable an oil cooler fan. But
yeah, and it seems kind of petty, right? Because there's so much that they want to put in the catalog that you can do, but then who wants to bring it back to the dealership? Nothing's worse than putting a part on your bike and having to wait 3 weeks.
Well, and I've got a good relationship with the dealer here and stuff.
And which dealer do you use, if you don't mind asking? Or
I have a relationship with Lake of the Ozarks Harley-Davidson.
Okay.
Like they let me take the Pan America out for an afternoon and ride it.
Nice.
They'll let me come up and film a bike. I come up and cover events that they have there, like, bike shows and things like that. But I've never bought a bike there. I've bought parts there. I've never had anything serviced there since 2003, when something was serviced under an extended warranty on my first Harley that I bought actually when I was living in Memphis. So it's not like I spend a lot of money with them, but I've developed a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And when they let me film there, I always give them a shout out and things like that. And they do events. And I mean, people don't realize sometimes, you pay for more than the motorcycle when you buy a motorcycle from the dealership. For them to put on like Bikefest, they're a big sponsor for the Bikefest event, which is a 100,000 people rally here. Well, they have a big vendor, area there at the dealership. They put on stuff there. He brings in the demo truck. People don't realize he paid for that out of his pocket to get the demo truck there. Harley didn't bring that demo truck for free.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, my understanding is there's a system where, like, for some things they will, like at big rallies. Okay. If your event is not big enough, the dealer pays them to bring the demo truck.
Oh, I had no idea.
The dealer has to pay something, whether it's the people's time or, to work the demo truck or the mileage or something, but there's some cost to it. And people didn't realize that he's, spending money to bring a demo truck there for this event to, give people something to do. Well, that's part of, the expense of having a dealership. And there's Harley makes them have these fancy buildings and everything else. And there's got to upgrade it every so many years. And there's a lot of expense besides just the motorcycle itself that goes into having a dealership. Now, that doesn't mean they need to gouge people. I'm not saying that. The dealers that I have a good relationship with, he's a no fee added dealer. He sells at MSRP, no matter what bike it is. He had 2 of the Arctic Blasts, MSRP. The Revival,
wow.
MSRP. It's what's on Harley-Davidson's website. That the dealer fee for freight, for surcharge, that kind of stuff. But outside that, he doesn't mark anything up. And he puts stickers on his bikes. You don't walk in there and have to ask what the price is.
That's the dealer that I take my bike to, which is Stars and Stripes Harley-Davidson. When they got bought out, they were Brian's, they became Stars and Stripes. When they got bought out, they started doing that, and that irks me. Or they leave bikes on their website forever. So people are you're calling, and they're like, "No, we haven't had that bike in 2 months." All right, well then why don't you take it off? Let alone, why am I asking you what the price is?
Well, and somebody commented about the Bash and Harley-Davidson party. I think here's an important thing to distinguish the dealerships from the company, from the motorcycle. I love the motorcycle. I don't trust the company. And every dealership is got to be judged on their own individual merits because they're all different.
Yes.
There are good and bad dealerships all over the place. We have it here. I know I won't say the Badgers just did a video on a dealership that's 100 miles from me that's got 70,000 views. And Sonny called me that day that he was having that problem with the tire and said, "Do you know anybody in the area? Because I'm 100 miles from there." And I said, "The only person I know is up here, 100 miles from where you're at. So you probably can find something closer." And he did. But, I hear the stuff from all dealers all over the area, on Facebook and through the local community and things like that. And, I think it's important to understand that it's not the dealership is Harley-Davidson's customer also. People talk about how, I've had someone tell me that the dealership marked the bikes up because Harley-Davidson told them they had to. That's not true. You realize the dealership buys the bike from Harley-Davidson and then they own it. The customer in a lot of ways to HDMC is the dealership. That's who's buying the bike. And eventually it rolls down to us and we're the end user, but they've got to make the dealerships happy in the end also, because the dealerships are their customers. That's their sales model. And, they're not all the same. And, I talked to the owner of the dealership here, and he's very blatant. He'll say, if a dealership's telling you that Harley-Davidson is telling them that they have to sell a bike for more than MSRP, he said, then you need to find a new dealership.
Yes.
They're blowing smoke.
Yeah, and I think it's sad that we're in this day and age and dealers still run that stuff. You know, they still act like you don't have Google. You could spend 5 minutes on Google and be like, "Nah, you're full of shit." It's crazy.
It is, and I hear this, about dealerships all over, and I think that is probably the biggest problem Harley-Davidson needs to overcome. I don't know that I have all the answers, whether it's cutting inventory for dealerships that they get too many complaints about, or something else, or what their method needs to be. If you follow Ford, there was a big uproar because I guess Ford's going to start selling their EV vehicles direct online, and the Ford dealers are pissed off. And what Harley's doing the same thing with the Livewire, though. Essentially now you can buy they spun Livewire off to its own company, and it has a model where you can go online to order it. You go to different stores, like in California, they have Livewire stores, not Harley-Davidson dealers, that you can go buy the Livewire at. And so, the dealer network is a problem, and it's something that they've got to figure out and how to fix, I think, to really keep from losing more customers. Because the biggest thing I see that people complain about fall back on the dealership, whether it's the price gouging or the service or something else, but most of it, I think, could be solved at the dealership level.
Yeah, well, NVA Ryder brought up a point. I mean, I always thought that was the beauty of the Tesla model, right? If I want to go out and buy X Harley-Davidson, if I could order it online and it's a simple transaction, I think it would be, it may not be for everyone, but I could see it bringing in a lot more people that are maybe intimidated to go to a dealer. Or they're intimidated to their dealer.
I had a dealer tell me that Harley customers don't want dealerships to be like Walmart, where you go into every one of them and they all look the same and they all have the same stuff and the price is all the same and everything else and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, why do you think McDonald's has done so well? Because they are consistent across the country, from one coast to the other, a consistent experience. If you go to one McDonald's, you can go to one 1,000 miles away and pretty much expect the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, there's something to be said about that model working also.
I mean, our local dealership here, 2 of them barely had bikes. You go up north and they have plenty of bikes. So it's interesting how one person looks at a dealership and they view it as being the whole company, and it's really not.
Yeah. And that's, I think some people, and maybe because I cover Harley-Davidson, I'm more in tune to it, but I think people, when they blame the company for the experience at the dealership level, and they don't really understand it's independently owned. And unless they complain to Harley-Davidson about it themselves, there's probably, they don't hear 90% of the complaints, because probably 90% of people don't bother calling corporate and complaining about a dealership. They just go somewhere else.
No, the only downside I've heard about that, and I don't know how true this is because it's YouTube, but I've heard of people having issues and then wind up getting blackballed from an area, which kind of sucks because, they've had an issue with one dealership. And of course, in this world, all the dealerships are related.
I've heard that from a Livewire owner in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
probably the same person I'm thinking about. Yeah. Yeah.
He complained. And the problem is Livewires are very limited on what dealerships can, support them and work on them and this and that. And it, bit him in the ass, because the dealership was like, yeah, well, just don't come back here.
Yeah. Well, and if it's who I'm thinking of, it's also, I think there was some attitude too. It was, well, I have a Livewire. Okay. Well, everybody's got something. Yeah. That is pretty funny that that can happen. So here's a loaded question, but I'll ask anyway. What would you like to see from the motor company? They put you in charge tomorrow. Would you change anything? If you would, what would you change?
Well,
besides, like get a killer big office and,
yeah,
I think bikes.
And people, this isn't going to change in corporate America, but I've worked in corporate America. I worked for a large corporation in my previous life. I work for a pretty big organization right now. And I think all this shit where CEOs get stock interest and everything else needs to be changed. Let me give you a prime example. And it's something I'm going to talk about in my video. Almost all CEOs end up with some kind of stock for the company that they get hired into. They get some stock option. Okay. You know, Harley-Davidson spun like 40% of Livewire off. They own 60%. They sold 40% of Livewire off. u.a.e. has a bunch of stock in the new company as part of that transaction. During a financial call, there was even a question by an analyst talking about, well, who pays for the u.a.e. salary as he's working for this other company and working for Harley-Davidson? And the response from u.a.e. is, well, Harley-Davidson still pays for my time working, overseeing Livewire because we own 60% of it and it's in Harley-Davidson's best interest. But is that deal with Livewire that he did, was it really in Harley-Davidson's best interest long-term? Or was it in his best interest because he got another set of stocks from another set of companies? And I think that really, you know, you want to believe that these guys are doing their best in what's best for the company long-term. But when you give them incentives to make short-term decisions, I think it just really makes the water muddy. It makes it hard to tell, you know, is this guy really doing what he thinks best for the company, or is he doing what's best for himself financially? Because now he just got a whole bunch of stock options in another company. And if Harley fires him, he's still got all that other stock.
Sure.
You know, and the numbers I saw from the Livewire stuff, I find completely ridiculous personally. Maybe I'm a fool, but I don't see there's any way they're going to sell the amount of EV motorcycles in the next 10 years that they claim. It was astronomical, the growth rate they were predicting. And we don't have the infrastructure. I don't see EV infrastructure growing around here at all. I mean, they put in Tesla charging stations one place in town 5 years ago, and that's it. You know, there's been no growth. We've talked about look at the electricity problems Florida had last winter when everybody had to turn their heat on, and then they all were without power because they overloaded the power system. Can you imagine if all those people had to charge their cars every night? You know, what's the difference between that?
Yeah, and you know, and that's the thing too that I think is weird is that we're pushing a technology that isn't feasible in so many levels, right? Because most people, I mean, you could make the argument that if you went out and spent 30 grand on an Ultra, people would be like, all right, well, you bought an Ultra. You spent 30 grand on a Livewire, at least when it was badged as a Harley-Davidson, people would look at you like you're nuts.
Yeah.
Because what are you getting out of it? It's cool. I've ridden them twice. They're fantastic motorcycles, but they're not $30,000 over the motorcycle.
You know, and to go back to your question, I guess, what would I change? I would change the structure of the company in the way that I thought that every employee was pulling in the same direction to do what was best for Harley-Davidson, the company long-term, and that people that had stock would have to accept that we're working on a long-term plan and not a short-term plan. If you look at it, they report dividends and they paid out stock dividends last quarter, but their debt ratio is increasing every year. They're not paying their debt down. It's growing, but they're paying out stock dividends to, you know, people. To me, that's got to change. That's just like, you know, me and you going out and just getting more credit cards and more debt and saying, well, I'm making more money this year at my job. I'm doing good, and not looking at what's happening on the debt side. And I think that's, you know, that's maybe the American way in some ways it's become, but it shouldn't be. And, you know, so I guess if I was changing Harley-Davidson, those are the financial things would be the things I'd change first. Cause I think without that solid financial foundation, you can't grow or build. Matt Levitich, if you do some research on him, the former CEO, he started out in design. He was with the company for like 20 years or 15 years and worked his way up. He never intended to be CEO. He didn't go to college to be a business guy. He ended up being in there. And I think that's because his intent, whether his business skills were right or wrong, or his vision, his intent was to do what was best for Harley-Davidson. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that u.a.e. is the same way. I worked for a company that went through 5 CEOs in 8 years. So I have seen CEO turnover. I've seen what investment companies do when they own the company and they just rotate a CEO out because he's worried about long-term and not their immediate dividends. And, you know, I think that's what's got to change at Harley-Davidson for them to stay around another 100 years.
Okay. And now Jamin brought up a question, and this is the question a lot of people bring up, is that how would you fix the belief that Harleys are unaffordable? I mean, do you think that their new
Well,
pre-certified program?
I've done some research on this, and would you be surprised to find out that, a bagger from 1980s with the cost of inflation is relative to what a bagger is right now, that really Harley has not increased. They're not any less affordable now than they were 30 or 40 years ago. You know what's changed? What's really changed is blue collar income has not grown with white collar income. So all the people who had blue collar jobs in the 80s that could afford a Harley can't now. And it's not because Harley has become a lot more expensive. It's because blue collar incomes have not grown at the same level of like middle class.
Okay.
If you go back and you look at that, and you look, if you were a union laborer in the 80s or whatever else, compared to what you made to a guy working at McDonald's, the difference was a lot more than what it is for a union laborer now compared to a guy working at McDonald's making $15 an hour. So that wages, that differential's not stayed the same. And, because I hear this a lot, and I really do. People don't realize how much time I probably spend researching these topics and looking into them and trying to actually understand them and get my facts right and understand that. But now, if you go back and you look before the 80s, there was the price change was a lot less significant. But, from the late 80s on, and you look at inflation, the prices have not changed all that much.
Okay.
It's hard to say. I think people want Harleys to be more affordable. Everybody wants everything to be more affordable.
Sure.
Look at trucks. I bought a truck in 2018. It was $44,000. I got, $15,000 to $20,000 in equity in it right now. If I go trade it in, I got nothing because trucks have gone up $15,000 to $20,000 in 4 years.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Same truck. So I didn't gain anything. I mean, my equity's gone because of inflation. And I think that's a real struggle. And Harley's going to have that struggle. Honda, all of them are. But the part of that, and people want Harleys to be more affordable. Do you think American labor is going to take and start working for less money? Do you see that happening, right?
No, and I think that brings up a good point. Is that if you want to promote that culture and you want to buy American, then you're going to pay for it. There's just no other way around it, right? Because it's a win-win, right? And that's the difficult situation to explain to people, right?
Yeah,
you don't want your family to starve, so why should the guy making a bike starve?
Right. And, people talk about Harley needs to make more parts in America and not make stuff in China and not buy from China and everything else. I don't know how much truth to it is. Harley-Davidson did say in a call that they have had less supply chain issues. They've been able to manage the supply chain better than a lot of their competitors and other people in the automotive industry because they do source as much stuff as they can locally in the United States. People may not believe that, but when I did my research on a Daymaker headlight in 2016, when I bought my Street Glide, it was made by JW Speaker, which was made in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I found said that. They were buying headlights that were made in the U.S., not in China. You want to knock $300 off the price of the bike, buy a Chinese headlight and put in it instead of a JW Speaker. So, that's the thing that people have to understand. We say we want it to be an American company. We want them to support American jobs and we want to bring production back to America, but we want it cheaper. Well, the only way you're going to get it cheaper is if you can convince people to work for less.
Yes.
And there's a reason that so much manufacturing's gone to China and Brazil and Mexico and everywhere else. And if we as a country are not willing to work hard for a little less money, then that's not coming back here.
No, I mean, that's completely fair. So what is your outlook? I mean, if you were to, based on what if you look at the next 10 years, which by all accounts, they're going to look at the Revolution Max as being that premier motor. I mean, how do you see Harley evolving?
So, I mentioned this in a video and a lot of people don't know it, but everybody wants to see the Revolution Max in a bagger. I believe you've made that comment, right?
I have. That was me.
Would you believe that they produced 4 or 5 touring motorcycles, 10 years ago with the Revolution engine from the B-Rod in a bagger and took it to their testing ground over 10 years ago?
I had no idea.
I've actually found a clip where Matt Levatich talked about it had been done in the past, that they had tested this, and they compared it to all their competitors when they tested this. But they stuck a Revolution, or not a Revolution Max, but a Revolution engine, the B-Rod engine, in a touring frame, took it out and tested it. If they didn't do it in the last 15 years, there's probably a reason why.
Okay.
So if you look at the Revolution Max engine, it's more horsepower than torque, right? By a pretty sizable amount. If you look at the Pan America, it's, I think, is it 90 foot-pounds of torque and 150 horsepower, something like that. So, the Sportster S is 125 horsepower. Is that? I think that's right.
It's pretty high.
Okay, so in your touring bike, where does your horsepower fall from your torque? How much do those numbers differ?
Yeah, it's all about torque.
It's all about torque. You got
getting off the line.
My bike's got 116 foot-pounds of torque and 94 horsepower. These bikes have 150 horsepower and 90 foot-pounds of torque. It's going to be a totally different feel. It's going to be maybe more stress on the engine because it doesn't have the torque. I don't know what they found out from their testing, but there's a reason they didn't do it yet. And I'm not saying they won't do it, but I think the Revolution Max engine has to come out in the Pan America and the Sportsters and other places and get some real tests from real users before they're going to put it in their touring platform. Their touring platform is their moneymaker. Sorry, all you Sportster guys, but no, that is not Harley-Davidson's bread and butter. I'm tired of hearing it. I hear this all the time, how the Sportster is so great. It's the Sportster may be a great bike, but it's not their moneymaker. Their moneymaker is the touring line. That's where they make their most money. They're not going to jeopardize that until they get it dialed in right. And I think that's probably going to mean a bigger motor because they're going to have to tune it like they did the Sportster S to get more torque. They're going to give up horsepower. And so they're probably going to have to go to a bigger displacement engine than the 1250, to do a bagger, I think. And get the torque where they need it to be. I think they're working on it. I think they will do it. I just don't think it's going to be next year. I think it's still going to be a few years out.
Yeah, the only reason I say that I thought next year is when, was it Zeiss or somebody made a comment about that the All Roads Home to Harley event next year was going to be like, they kept leading you to believe there was going to be some big announcement.
Well, did you see the video on the Pan America 975 I did?
Yes.
So they took that down by Monday. I released that video on Saturday. By Monday, that was all gone. So everything was taken off the web about that. But I said, a year ago when they came out with this and announced it, Pan America, I said they need a 975. We know they've got that motor. I really think they need a 700 to compete with the 10 array. Adventure bikes are the fast growing segment. That's where they can make money. They've already proved with the Pan America that they can compete with BMW and stuff like that. So I think you're going to see things like the Pan America 975, the Bronx, maybe if they can compete with, a Ducati or something else price-wise, maybe not performance, but at least price-wise. The MT-09 is going to be really hard to compete with on price. The Yamaha triple that's kind of in that naked market that's a price leader. But I think they will do a touring bike. I think we're going to see other bikes like this electric flat tracker, the Del Mar 2, things like the Pan American 975 before we're going to see Revolution Max bagger. And
that Del Mar bike's a good looking bike too.
Yeah, and that was the world's worst launch. Did you see that? Did you try and watch that launch?
Yeah, it made no sense.
They sign up on and get an email, and they put on their YouTube channel, if you signed up, you should get an email right before the event with the link to the launch. I signed up. I never got an email. They sold 100 bikes and never put anything out, never put any description on it. Now, finally, information's come out that the bikes are $17,000. They sold 100 of them on pre-order with a $100 deposit. So $10,000 that's refundable. That's really not that impressive. If you can put a $100 deposit down that's refundable, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was joking around when they came out with the Cybertruck that I was going to put down a deposit just so I could send it to my wife. Be like, look, we're buying a truck. I can get it back. It'd be, fun
Yeah.
joke.
I think there's some things they need to do differently. I don't know that I've got all the answers. I've never run a big corporation. I've had budgets that were in the millions. I mean, I do have some business sense, believe it or not, although, some people like to think I'm a dipshit hillbilly, but that's okay. It's a tough nut to crack, to be honest. But what I think I see them doing is creating, like the Pan American 975, maybe the Bronx. I'm still not sure about that, but they did renew the trademark name on it. If you're not up on that with trademark law, it turns out now if they don't use the name within like 2 years, they have to refile and or they lose it.
Okay.
So even if they may not do it, but they think they may do it, then they got to refile you every 2 years, or else they lose the right to the name and somebody else can trademark it.
Interesting. And I think that would be interesting because the Pan America made a bigger dent than people were expecting. So then you have a naked sport bike. I think that'd be an interesting following.
Well, in Harley-Davidson, in all fairness, and like I said, I don't mean to be bashing on the company, but I think you have to really look at what they're saying and do some research. Best-selling, adventure motorcycle, touring adventure motorcycle in the U.S. 4,000 units sold. Okay, well, yeah, but their competition, the best-selling competition was like the BMW with 3,000 units a year or something.
Mm-hmm.
They only had to sell 4,000 units. We're talking about a company that sells, over 100,000 units of motorcycles a year. So 4,000 units was really not that amazing of an accomplishment. I'm not trying to take away that say anything bad about the Pan America. I love it. It's awesome. That thing, will haul ass. I've had it over 100 mile an hour in less than 10 seconds. And that was not in sport mode because I didn't want it to get away from me because I was pulling out in traffic trying to merge. But, the bike is great. And that's what I feel like, they have great motorcycles. I truly believe they have great motorcycles. Yes, there are some lemons. There are some problems. I get people, I do a video on the BMW and I get people saying, you didn't do your research. My BMW blew up after 5,900 miles. Well, it's the same thing you hear on Harley-Davidson. The M8's got oil problems. I don't know anybody personally that's had an M8 oil problem personally. And I know 40 people that have M8s. So it's not that proliferant. Yeah, there's some issues.
Well, and I think that's the problem with the internet too, right? It's the problem with YouTube. If you find an issue, it's going to draw sensationalism. It's going to draw views, and people want to talk about the negative. So it's different. So Firecracker, what's on your? She going? Oh,
no. Somebody told her to wake up. We've been talking too much. Why don't we get her to tell everybody about her benefit before we?
That's what I was going to ask because I heard if we tell you about that, we can go another 3 hours. So let's talk about your benefit.
So last year, I'll start. Last year I did a benefit for a little boy that came up with cancer. We raised almost $15,000.
Wow,
so after that was over, I told Mike, I said, I want to do one for a kid every year. So at the same time, right after I started that benefit, some people that we both know, their son was diagnosed, but I already had this other one going. So some of our other friends did a benefit for the little boy I'm doing this year. And they raised like 10,000, I think, last year. He's got a very rare, very aggressive muscle cancer. Not good outcomes, most likely. I mean, actually, they're on last hopes of trial. So we are doing July 30th, a poker run, silent auction, live auction. Our friend owns All Out Dyno Drags, and he donated his time to bring the All Out Dyno Drags and do it for free for donations also. So it's just something that I get emotional over. That's but anyways, anybody that wants to come out or donate or
send a sticker,
because the last little boy we did a sticker board. We made a wooden one with a saying on it, and then we gave him all these YouTuber stickers. So we'd like to do that again. We've kind of been slow on this because we've been so busy to do live streams to try to get more, but we would love to get anybody to send us stickers so we can give him that. We did, I wanted to do something special for him because of, we're raising money, but we wanted to do something special for him. One of my friends has a friend that has season tickets to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he loves them. So they are donating a set of 4 tickets to one of the games in November for us to give to him. So we're going to get cash donations separately from the benefit donations and get a Visa gift card for him to take to the game and just buy whatever he wants souvenir wise. But yeah, we have a lot of live auction things. Every day I'm getting more people to give me more stuff. We do have a Facebook page on it. And we've been sharing that out. So we're hoping just to get whatever we can and, help the family out. I don't care if they take the money and take him on a vacation because, we don't know if the lookout right now is that not good. The mom actually just dealt with, while she's already got her son going through it, her mom found out she had cancer. Her mom just died, and a week later, her dad died on top of having to take her son to St. Louis. So we want to do whatever we can to help the family and the little boy. So
anybody that needs my address, if you look in the description of any of my videos, there's a P.O. box. That's also her P.O. box. You can send them to Firecracker or me through the P.O. box listed in the description of my videos. So she did a video on the little boy last year. He just had treatment and he couldn't come to the event because his white blood count cell was low. But we had this poker run going on, and we asked if we could drive by the house maybe where he would be so he could see all the motorcycles that came out to support him. Well, they brought him to town because it wasn't someplace we could really go with the motorcycles. And they said, well, we'll have him in this parking lot and you can drive by. We expect him to be in a pickup truck or car inside, and we drive by. Well, we get up there and they've got him in the back of a pickup truck in a lawn chair with this giant umbrella because it's raining. We're doing this in the rain for him. And he's sitting under this giant pool umbrella in the back of a truck, just grinning from ear to ear at all these, 40 motorcycles that come roaring down the highway to see him. We pull in the parking lot, we do a little drive by, and he's waving and yelling at everybody. He's so excited. So we pulled out on the street. We went up, we came back into the parking lot, did it a second time. And I was told after the second time that I couldn't do it a third time because she wasn't sure she could handle it. Everybody was in tears. It was a really neat event to be a part of. Everybody, Mike Bodine is usually in the chat on a lot of these. He came up. He doesn't live real far from me, and he supported the event and stuff. And he was touched by it, and he's going to come to the next one. But yeah, if you can send stickers, that's fine. If you want to donate or you have a business you think that'll donate, you got a company you work with, let me know. Custom Dynamics has always donated these benefits every time I've reached out to them. Me and Brian were talking earlier about them as a company. I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm doing a benefit for a kid with cancer. And they're like, let me send you a gift card. I talked to Progressive Suspension because I've got a relationship I'm working on with them. And they sent me a brand new pair of shocks for a touring motorcycle. Not their high-end one. But there are companies out there like that want to support the community, that want to support people and want to do good things. And, so you never know what somebody will do until you ask. You'd be surprised, especially when doing something for a kid with cancer, what people donate. She talked about her friend that has All Out Dyno Drags. All Out Dyno Drags has been around for years. They were in Indiana originally, and the guy sold out. And a friend of mine who lives 20 miles away bought the business. And if you don't know what that is, you pull your bike up in a trailer and strap it down on a dyno in a trailer, and you race the other guy in the trailer. He's got fans on the engine. He's got a start tree out there with the lights that roll down just like in a drag strip. And he can give you your reaction time from the green light to when you take off. He can give you your 60 mile an hour speed, your quarter mile, what your top speed is, including your times. It's really cool to watch. There's some videos out on his Facebook page, All Out Dyno Drags. But he's bringing that and setting that up for free and donating all his time. And that's normally like a $3,000 minimum for him to set up because of insurance, gas. I mean, he's got to have a great big C45 truck to haul this thing. It's huge. 2 dynos, guys running the dynos while he's out talking on the mic and all this, and they're donating all that. So I don't know, All Out Dyno Drags.
Wow.
Do they do that at Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue? I'm going to try and get him in with those guys. He's the only one in the country I know of. Yeah, Jay said he was at Hot Springs last weekend. That's the same guy. So it's Joffrey's a friend of ours. One thing we didn't talk about here, but if you've watched my channel a long time, you might know is we're involved in motorcycle rights. We're part of the motorcycle rights organization here in Missouri. Joffrey's in that same organization. That's how we met him, and we've known him for years. And he just happened to buy that business. So Joffrey's a kind of unique individual. He's also done the blue collar build off and won it multiple times. And that's where you take a donate bike and like $2,000 and you build a custom bike. So, we've got some cool people in the area that we can hang out with and do stuff with, and that will support our events like this and stuff. So
that's incredible. Now, you said there's a Facebook page for that?
Yes. Well, it's an event.
Okay.
Are you friends with Mike, or
do you do Facebook?
I believe well, yeah, I do. What I was going to say is I can I'll put it in the description here, because I'd love to see if you guys are listening or watching, if you could donate $5, that's going to change the world, let alone if you could do more.
Yeah, last time we had people who mailed us checks. Last benefit we did, I took donations over the internet. That cost me about $700, because when people donate $2,000, I got to pay the taxes on the $2,000.
Yes.
So last year, my donation was paying the taxes on all the internet donations. So we ended up taking internet donations this year, because quite honestly, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, and a lot of places charge you so much in fees that I'd rather just, if somebody wants to send money and they want to send a check, they can message me or Mike, and we can tell them the parent's name to write it out to.
Okay.
So we'll just give them the check. Just so, but I just, I don't want Mike to have to pay a bunch of money.
No. And then the monkeys ran into the same thing. People are sending money out of the goodness of their heart, but they're not realizing that YouTube's taking a 30% cut off the top plus taxes.
Right.
No, I understand.
It's crazy. But
I'm going to send you a link to the event in the private chat here.
Right now. If you want to drop it even in the comments,
I'll drop it in the comments if I can here. If anybody does Facebook, and we'd love for people, if you're close, come hang out. If you're going to come to this event and you need someplace to stay, get a hold of us. I'll if I find out people are coming from out of town and need a place to stay, well, I'll see if I can get a contact at a motel to give them a discount or something else. Explain it's for a benefit. People in the community around here, we're a small town, 14,000. So word, gets around, and we say, oh, we're the ones doing this benefit, and we've got people coming from out of town. I'm pretty sure I get them a motel to give them at least their cheapest rate right off the bat.
Well, that page I'm posting as I get things. I have so many things that have not been posted on there for the auction, because the people still have to get it to me. Like there's a kids picnic table being made, and it's worth $700 that a company's donating. So once they get that, but I'm trying to post as I get things. There's a bottle of Crown Royal on there that you cannot buy anymore, that one of my family members donated. And if you look it up on the internet, it's worth between $600 and $1,300.
Wow.
So, we've got some good items. We just got to get the right people there, and hopefully we have reached. I went through 300 flyers already and ordered another 150. And then that place messaged me, a lady from there, and said, I am a cancer survivor. I seen your benefit flyer, and I am donating an extra 100 flyers to you. So, it's just amazing that when you're doing this, that people just out of nowhere will come to, help out. And we've got a great group of friends that, help me with the donations. I've got 2 ladies that don't work, so they've went around helping me. I reached out to places like Branson, to different places in Branson. I reached out to Walt Disney World.
The Cardinals.
I got the Cardinals to donate. But I haven't heard from the Kansas City Chiefs or the Royals, but I'm just trying to get things from anywhere I can. I mean, I've personally, every time we go to a Harley dealer, I'm spending $100 or more of stuff and buying it to put in the silent auction. We went to Indiana and I bought 2 bottles of wine and I bought some moonshine.
Who's your hooch?
Yep. To donate because I just can't help it. I see things and I'm like, oh, this will bring some money, you know, so I'm just buying it and donating it. And, you know, that's just how I am. So
that's awesome. So this is July 30th, it looks like.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and that I know a lot of people have said that's right before Sturgis. People are gonna be, and I'm like, that's when All Out Dino Drags had opened, and they're offering to do it. So, and that was a weekend that I had open, that we had open because we are so booked. So,
and at the end of the day, right? Not everybody goes to Sturgis. I mean,
well, and if you're going to Sturgis from the south, just make this a pit stop on your way.
There you go.
Your trip. You know,
so
you know,
this is.
JS is in the chat tonight. If you guys, I'm going to give a shout out to Jay Sonsby in the chat. JS, we did Stubborn American. You know what Stubborn American is, right? Right. Mm-hmm. So we did Stubborn American last year, and we met Jay at Stubborn American. We actually had breakfast at the same place as he did on our way out of town. We talked a little bit. He started, you know, I found he was doing some YouTube videos. We hung out with him at Spring Fling. He rode up from Little Rock, Arkansas, you know, a half day's ride to come up and hang out in an old school bike rally with us on Memorial Day weekend. He's a small channel, but he's doing some really cool content. I encourage everybody to go out and check out Jay's channel if you haven't seen him yet.
Jay, pop your link in the description, please. Let me know if it doesn't go. I'll approve it.
And you know, I have one other channel I don't really promote. I have a personal channel.
There was that look of like, uh-oh.
She knows about this. When I have a personal channel and I've decided, I used to do motorcycle stuff on it before I had riding in the Ozarks. And I cleaned all that off. And I've started doing some YouTube like tip stuff, trying to help other creators. So if there's any creators out there that are looking for someone that's in the same industry to share information with them or whatever, I have a channel for that. I don't talk about it a lot, and I don't put it on my Riding in the Ozarks channel a lot, because that's really for people that are not creators so much. I mean, a lot of creators follow it, but I don't target it at creators. But my Mike Thompson channel is actually targeted at creators and like YouTube tips. And some of it's like, I made a mistake, or I did this. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people don't realize I posted a video about Indian motorcycles and I got like 800 subscribers overnight, and I did not buy subscribers. And Salty from Salty.
Oh, I remember you telling. I remember seeing this. Yes, that happened to me.
Yeah, and I had my New Bike Mike channel. It happened to it with like the very first video I did on there, which was about Indians. So, you know, I shared information. I'm like, what happens when you buy subs, but you didn't really buy subs? Because I was freaking out that they're going to take my channel down because they think I bought subs when I didn't. Because the traffic source actually tracked back to a website that you looked at, and people were being paid to click on something, but they weren't being paid by me. You know, I
had this same thing happen. I put a video up and it was getting like a 1-second view, a like, and a subscriber. And it was just going, and that's all I kept thinking was like, I'm going to lose my channel at no fault of my own.
Right. So I did a video about that on my MT channel, my Mike Thompson channel, just because if somebody else went through it, because when I went through it, I looked for information on it and I couldn't find anything. Because I was freaking out. I called Sinister Clutch. I have his phone number. I'm like, what do you think I should do? Should I call YouTube and tell him I'm not doing this? He's like, just calm down, wait a few days. You know, it was on a Friday. He said, wait till Monday, see where things are. By Monday, YouTube had already fixed a whole bunch of it and taken a bunch of subscribers off.
Yeah.
You know, but I was freaking out about it. So I made a video. So if someone else runs into the same thing, maybe if they search for it, they'll find this video. They'll not go through the same anxiety and freak out that they're going to lose their channel, you know?
Sure. Well, you know, and that's the thing that's terrible too, because I know, like you said, it happened to Salty. You could wind up having your channel jeopardized, or your not your ethics, but you personally as a creator have that jeopardized because, you know, it's happening, and it's kind of crazy, especially when you saw how brutal it was, how fast it was happening.
Yeah,
it was absolutely insane.
You know, I'm sure you've seen channels that people have said, Oh, they're buying subs. They're growing too fast. So you worry about, well, are people going to think I'm doing that when I'm not really doing it? Because you grew 1,000 subs overnight. And then you're like, I don't want people to think I'm doing that. I'm not doing that. But you freak out over it and you worry about it. And, I think, for me, my integrity means a lot to my audience. I want them to know what I tell them is I may not be correct. I might make a mistake, honestly, but it's honestly, I'm not doing it for the purpose of getting views or things like that,
Yeah. And it's, and like you said too, I mean, sometimes that just happens, right? You hit the right thing, it can really drive your channel. But to your point, you don't, the ethical question comes into, yes.
My only viral video that I consider viral was like 50,000 views in a day. And that was legit 50,000 views in a day. So you want to hear that story?
Yes, please.
So back in it would have been 2020 just before it was, I hit 1,000 subscribers. I remember this like August 12th, because that was my birthday. And I would or hit it August 10th, because my goal was to hit it before my birthday. And, because I was getting close. So I had covered some stuff about Sturgis with the whole COVID and pandemic thing. And I had talked about Buffalo Chip came on and said, we're having a rally long before the city of Sturgis voted to do it. And I was watching the city of Sturgis's town hall meetings. If you didn't know, you can actually watch them live. And, that's the kind of research I do is I watch this stuff. I gauge what's really being done by the decision makers. And then I make a video about it. I don't just, read this and say, well, I'll put my own spin on it. But I made a video about Sturgis. There was going to be an event there, whether it was the city's event or somebody else's event, there was going to be an event there. And then I saw a Facebook post where people were up there in Sturgis were talking about some of the roads were closed through the Indian reservations because of COVID, and they were turning people away and don't go through the Indian reservation. So I made a video about that. I'm like, hey, if you're going to Sturgis, you need to know this. Don't get off the interstate. Stay on the main routes. Don't go through the reservations because you have a high likelihood of being asked to turn around. And gas stations are not all that frequent out there in some parts of that country. And, just avoid that trouble and just plan on staying on the interstates. And that video did really well. And then there was, this stupid stuff that goes around on Facebook about how Antifa is going to show up at Sturgis. And I made a comment in a video, or I made a video about it. And I'm like, Antifa is not coming to Sturgis because there's no rooms left. Yeah. They didn't make the reservations a year in advance. There's nowhere for them to stay. If they were going to do a demonstration of some kind, they're more likely to do it in Sioux City or somewhere else along the way than they are actually in Sturgis, because Sturgis is already full, and they would be outnumbered in Sturgis. They might not be outnumbered in Sioux City or somewhere they stage some kind of event. But I made a video about that. Well, I wake up on this Saturday morning and my video where I talked about Antifa's not coming to Sturgis was going through the roof. And so I go out and I Google Antifa Sturgis, and that's when the protesters showed up. And they weren't really Antifa, but the initial thought was that they were. And so I watched a couple of the videos that people had recorded the day before and put them out. And I made a video. I'm like, okay, it's protesters. There's no evidence in any of these videos that have anything to do with Antifa, and I kind of gave the cops their kudos for letting people have their freedom of speech. I gave their bikers kudos for letting them demonstrate to a point, and I just talked about it. And I put that video out at noon, and by the end of the day, it had 50,000 views.
Holy cow.
But it was one of those trending news things. It's at a time when our country was Antifa and everything was in the headlines and COVID and Sturgis, and it just went crazy, but I only reason I made the videos because I woke up and I checked my views and they're spiked on this one particular video. And I go out and I research it and I'm like, well, there's something going on here. So let's talk about it. And I just gave my perspective, and my channel grew a lot from that because people said that they really liked that I didn't, I had a very kind of not neutral, but I didn't judge. I didn't jump on the bandwagon of, Antifa this or that just to get views. I reported what I thought was really the situation, and people are like, I'd rather watch you than the news because I trust you more than mainstream media these days.
Well, and I think that that's also the way that you present, because when you do your biker news too, it's not presented with a lot of sensationalism. It's based on fact and what and I think that's great. I think it brings a lot of, everyone can do the same thing, but you can only watch so much sensational stuff so much.
Everybody that messaged me about when Indian beat Harley at Daytona for the bagger races, I just want to remind them at the last race, Harley came in number 1 and number 2.
No, look at that. He's talking smack.
Well, and what it is at Daytona, it's just like NASCAR. The draft made a big difference, and the Harley racers didn't play the draft.
Yeah,
and they didn't work as like teams would in NASCAR, and it's new to them. And the guys that won all drafted into the last lap. They all drafted around somebody in the last lap to win. They were not the lap leader.
Yeah, that's kind of the amazing part I always saw with NASCAR. You can watch 499 laps and it really didn't matter.
Right.
It's the guy in 5th place that somehow gets the train and you're gone.
Yep. But I think people also, they get into this brand thing again about Indian versus Harley or whatever. It's a lot to do with the bikes and the setups, and none of those bikes in the bagger races are anywhere near stock. Those things are all got 200 pounds shaved off of them. They're stage 27, not stage 4 or 5. They don't have a tire shredder kit. They're completely custom flywheels and everything else.
Yeah. They're sitting like 18 feet off the ground because they've got like 12-foot shocks on them. And yeah, it's pretty crazy.
The Indian Challengers in the race run FTR front suspensions, things like that. There's a lot of, I've read the actual race rules when I did a research for a video, and there's, some requirements. They have to look like the bike, that start with that chassis, but they can, replace every piece of plastic on it with carbon fiber, or every piece of metal with carbon fiber, things like that. It's interesting. And if you read the rules, it really shows you just how far from stock they can get.
Yes. It's interesting too, because it's the whole NASCAR win on Sunday, buy it on Monday, but you can't, to your point, it's bragging rights, but you might as well have just threw a sticker on it and called it a Harley. I mean, it's so far off of what you can get in a showroom, but I do think it's interesting what you can do with a bike that big. Obviously they're lightening it up, but to see a full blown bagger tear it up like that, it's pretty impressive.
It's awesome entertainment. Entertainment. We went to flat track races her first time a few years ago, and her biggest complaint was, why are there so many Indians on the field? Where's the guy on the Harley? Because it was after the FTR 750 came out, and 80% of the field was Indians. And if you don't follow flat track racing, that's killing flat track racing. There's actually an article about it, and the Flat Track Racing Commission is trying to figure out how to deal with it, because the FTR is so dominating that everybody's running them. So there's no split up of different brands for fans to back or be excited about. You either root for an Indian or you root for a loser. And that's, I think one guy won on a Harley earlier this year, and it was big news because the guy on a Harley won. It was a huge deal that somebody besides an Indian did. And if you think about it from Indians' perspective, they used to reward guys who would win on an Indian. Well, if 90% of the field is running on an Indian, where is Indians' incentive to reward somebody for winning on an Indian? Because everybody's running an Indian.
Yes.
So it's really hurting racing altogether, being too.
Yeah. And if you're not getting that, backing, you're not getting, because you're not getting factory backing at that point, I would assume, because what's the point?
Right. Yeah. I mean, why does Indian need to pay you to win on an Indian, extra, because they know you're going to ride the FTR 750 anyway.
Yes.
Or else they're not going to win.
That's very interesting. So as we, first off, you guys have been amazing. I truly appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So I guess as we wrap up, we've plugged the cancer fundraiser, which I really hope you guys will check out. I put the link to the Facebook in the description of this video, and hopefully, if you guys can donate, I mean, anything would be, and if you have a relationship with anyone that you could throw into an auction, that'd be great too. I mean, anything we can do. I mean,
it's for a great cause.
I was going to say, I'm having trouble even talking about that. So yeah, it's
the biggest thing for me is I was so excited to do this, and I was really upset when we put the video on the last one out, because it didn't get any views, really, did it?
No. I mean,
and Mike's like, that's just that kind of stuff people don't want to watch. So it was kind of a learning lesson. But no matter what, one of us will most likely Mike will put a video out I don't know, or maybe he'll film because I'm going to be busy the whole time. I'm not even going to go on the ride actually because I'm going to be staying back to do the silent auction stuff. But, no matter what, we'll put a video so everybody can see it, and we'll try to keep everybody updated. The last little boy that we did actually last week, he went and he was doing great, and he started having back pain, and he's relapsed like really bad. And now I'm like, just like, gosh, why? They're so young. They haven't even got to live their lives. So it's upsetting. And I'm trying to hint to people, you should get a group together and do a benefit, because I don't feel that I should do another benefit. And, one is a year is enough. It's a lot of work. And I've been working on this one for a while, but, I'm trying to hint around to try to get somebody, eventually to do one for that little boy again, because they say the second time on his is, it's very aggressive, and it's like, oh my gosh,
But, one thing that's really good about doing these benefits is you see the best side of people. You see people giving and giving. I've got a guy on my channel who reached out to me because he was having a problem with the motorcycle, and he was freaking out. He'd over tightened his oil drain plug and stripped it, and it's leaking oil, dripping. What do I do? And I'm like, he's like thinking he's going to have to take the bottom off the engine and all this stuff. And I'm like, they make this thing called an oversized drain plug. It's $8. I send him a link, and it fixed his problems. And he's like, thank you so much. Well, this guy, we've developed this relationship. He's up in Maine. I've never met him, but we talked offline. He's got my phone number now. I've helped him with some bike problems, and just, he didn't have anybody locally he could come to with a problem. And when we did this benefit for this last little boy, he donated. Well, he had this situation where he'd bought a Star Trek drone, I guess.
It was a collector
item, and he was going to give it to somebody, and there was some issue, and he didn't. And he paid like $60 in shipping and handling to send it to this little boy, to give it directly to the little boy. So when you do get involved in this, you see people do some pretty, selfless things that really show how much people can care and be involved and do good things for other people. And that's, I know as bikers, I'm sure you do charity things, you support events and stuff like that. We all do. And that's what I told April. I mean, don't get, upset that it doesn't do well on YouTube. Part of that is, I don't think enough people put that on YouTube, that YouTube understands there's an audience for it. I mean, that YouTube, people understand is, YouTube, I say this on my other channel all the time, but YouTube does not find viewers for your video. They find videos for their viewers. And a lot of that is based off watch history. So if they're not into watching videos on benefits all the time, it's not likely to get recommended. You're really depending upon your regular viewers that subscribe to your channel to watch it, and that's probably all.
Yeah, and it's really hard because and as a creator, it's very hard to get frustrated because you do something and you feel the message is so important. But yes, if there's not an audience for it, or if there's not a way to get it in front of somebody, it's very difficult. And that is tough for sure. Wow. Yeah. Let's see what we can do there. I think that's awesome that you're putting that much time into something like that.
Well, if you ever want to come to an old school bike rally, we'll put a lot of time into this too. JS did a video on it, but we're involved in putting on a motorcycle rally that next year will be the 35th annual rally on Memorial Day weekend that honors our fallen soldiers. It was started for 35 years ago for that. Last year I was vice chairman. I think next year it'll be my turn to be chairman. But it's $35 primitive camping all weekend. We have live bands every night. We do field events. We have a bike show, poker run, scavenger hunt, wet t-shirt contest, skin to win contest.
Mr. Buns.
We have a Mr. Buns contest, which could be right up your alley, Bri.
Yeah, I mean, who am I to say no?
But it's a cool event. It's like 1,000 people. There are 1,200 people usually. We're trying to grow it, but things like that people don't realize still exist. Everybody talks about Sturgis, but the Easy Rider rodeo or whatever in Chillicothe got canceled. Those events are dying, and if we don't go to them and support them and be involved in them, people aren't going to know what an old school rally was. They're not going to understand how Sturgis started, because things like that won't be there. Everything that'll pop up will be sensationalized, you know.
Sure. Good old corporate America, killing it all.
Well, I won't say they're killing it all, but I think, you know, I mean, we get sponsors for this. We get advertising. You know, the Cathouse in Eureka Springs and the Switchback Bar. You know, I just put a post out on Facebook and I said, hey, anybody want to buy advertising for our rally? We got full page ads for $100 or half page ads for $50. And they're like, how do I send you money? The Badgers took out a full page ad to help support the event, you know, and put their name out in front of 1,000 people. You know, so, I mean, you need sponsors and you need corporations, but you also need that audience that is interested in that. You know, we talk about the next generation of biker. Well, they don't just magically happen. Somebody's got to develop them. Somebody's got to get them into motorcycles. Somebody's got to teach them to ride. It's the same thing with these rallies. If we don't keep these small rallies, these events going and things, support your local dealers events and stuff like that, then they'll stop doing them. And, you know,
yes. Yeah, I mean it's a tough deal, and we're definitely at a crossroads with that too. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing a new rider get on a bike, as far as I'm concerned.
You're up in Pennsylvania, right?
I'm in New Jersey, right outside of Philly. Yeah,
outside Philly.
We need to go there.
Yeah, we haven't been up northeast riding yet and stuff. My daughter was looking at Penn State, so I thought I was going to have an excuse to go up there. But apparently, Penn State is out of my price range. So she's
beautiful country. Yeah, Penn State, that whole area, Route 6, which runs across the top of the state, is a beautiful. It's an old, I guess it's an old highway before highways were a thing. Goes across state. Some really great riding. Oh, if you guys get out this way, I've got to get down your way. I'd love to make that route. I'd love to make that ride for that little boy. That would be awesome.
Well, if you decide you're coming down here, you let us know. We'll do everything we can to.
That's July, so that we might be able to make that happen.
You know, last time we did this, we had 50 riders show up for the poker run. Not as much as I'd hoped, but it was raining that day and stuff. I'm hoping we have more this year, but we have, you know, even if it rains, we have the dyno drags, we have silent auction. You know, we have stuff to do. It's the, you know, it'll be a good time one way or the other. We'll make sure of it.
That's awesome.
We're trying to get a band for like after the live auction stuff. Everybody, by the time, you know, everybody's booked or they're on vacations, the bands that normally will do their time for free. So our friends have karaoke systems. So we're going to do like, they're going to DJ and it's going to be like DJ karaoke. So that'll be our music. And we're going to have, I'm paying, you know, the Moose has let me use the building for free, but in order to have a bartender, I got to pay money for that. And then I've got to pay insurance to the Moose. They have to have insurance. So I'm paying for that so we can have a good time afterwards, hopefully, and keep people there, which also helps out the Moose Lodge, which could use it. So
sure, everybody wins.
Plus, they are letting us use the hall for free, basically, besides me paying for that stuff. So, I mean, it's a win-win for both. So
that is awesome.
If you guys can make it, or anybody else wants to come, reach out on Instagram. We'll help you figure out, you know, where to stay, where things are, you know, make sure you have the itinerary, what's going on, take you out for dinner the night before.
Yep.
Man, that sounds like a hell of a good time and a hell of a good cause. Kudos to you. I think that's great that you guys are doing that. So now, important that we give back.
Before we try and wind this down, I didn't get to watch the premiere, so fill me in.
It was a teaser. The bike will be released what it is next week.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just basically
because I didn't know what was in the video.
Yeah, I was just saying goodbye to my Ultra. You know, I cried a little tear. I didn't really, but yeah. So next year's the big year. I mean, it's not a big secret. It's I bought a 2020 Road Glide Limited.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm very blessed. It's just kind of fell into it.
Buy a new bike, it's a good time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, and we were talking about this on the pre-show that and I don't understand the logic behind this. I won't even pretend to, but my wife has back issues. We went out on the bike today, which is the longest she's been on it since we got it, because it's been raining since we got it. She swears up and down it's a completely different ride. She's like, this is so much better than the Ultra. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, there's something different, but I can't understand what the difference is that makes that much difference. But I'll take it. It's yeah.
Happy wife, happy life, brother.
Exactly. So I was out riding with Frank yesterday, who's Misplaced Motovlogger, and I was showing him my new bike, and then I realized that I didn't have the seat bolt on. It was a lively ride. I was like, well, I shouldn't fall off potentially. We'll see.
You'll be okay. Just
it'll be fine.
Grip with your legs.
Yeah, you just grip the legs, grip the tank, it'll be fine. But yeah, so that's exciting. So there's going to be a big video for that next week. But yeah,
so you have a bunch of like shop videos doing upgrades. Got some plans?
Yeah, I just. Oh man, talk about feeling blessed. I got off the phone with Custom Dynamics today, and they're just, I think I can't wrap my head around what they're doing for me. They're sending me all kinds of stuff to upgrade the bike, and I thought it was very generous of them. So I was joking with Colin, Bronco rider, when I met him at the Baggers and Brews ride. I'm like, if I ever get a new bike, I want to get the Colin package. I want the refrigerator box that shows up out front with the big Custom Dynamics logo on it to drag it in the house. Yeah, they've been very generous. I'm really excited to see what it's going to do.
They're a great company. Like I said,
yeah,
and I don't really have a relationship with them other than they've helped me out with some benefits, and I buy their products.
The nice part about them is that they support NetShark, who was the moderator for the 5 Dirty Bikers, was in a really bad motorcycle accident. And they started sharing like all the publicity to try and raise money for him. And they're just great folks, and I'm a firm believer, and I will, my dealer experience will speak to that. And I can't wait to do a video on that. But if you spend money with people that are like that, it always pays you back. Those are the type of people that deserve your money. Yeah. These companies, and I realize everyone has a budget, but there's, you can go to Amazon and you can buy a $10 set of lights, but what are you really getting? They may be okay, and quite frankly, maybe they're good, but they're not supporting the community. Right. And I think if you can spend your money with companies to support the community, I think that's huge.
I wore my Cathouse shirt tonight. Jeff from the Cathouse, he supported us coming down to Spring Fling. He made it easy for us to come down there. I don't know if you saw that video or heard about that, but he rented a house and said, hey, let's put some YouTubers in it. And his whole reason wasn't, there was no discussion about you have to make a video on this or you have to make a video even or anything else. He's like, I want to get content creators the opportunity to come see what Spring Fling is about. And so I thought by renting a house, I will make it easy for them to come. I will remove a roadblock that might prevent them from coming. So he put several of us up in a house and said, have a great time. The Switchback bar was involved also with the Cathouse and doing that. We got there and there were snacks on the table and a little note from them and everything when we got to the house.
Nice.
How cool is that? But it's like that, like you say, it's, they give back to the community, not just the motovlog or the YouTube community, but we were down there last year for Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, and I'd met Jeff and talked to him, and there was a fireman whose son was in an accident, and they were doing a local fundraiser, and he heard about it. He's like, hey, I want to do a live, come down here to the Cathouse, and I want to do a live with you, and we want to announce that I'm donating $1,000, and I'm challenged, or $500 or whatever it was, and I'm challenging other businesses in the area to donate. And so, wow. He got on Facebook on my channel, and we put that out there, and we let people know where they could drop money off in the area if they were there for Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue and stuff. And he challenged the other businesses, in the area to support the event and stuff, and they raised money. And, those are the kind of people that I want to be around and I want to be associated with. And, Switchback and the Cathouse are great people. Got to know them really well. Custom Dynamics is a company that I've had a little bit of a relationship with. I like them. I think they have great products. I had their products before I ever had YouTube, mm-hmm. But they're, you think about it as a content creator, who do I want to associate with? is there somebody I don't want to associate with, or or who are the brands that I really like and that I think are doing great things that I want to be part of and build that relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
That's like custom dynamics.
Well, and it's like you were speaking earlier with shocks and stuff. There's so many businesses out there, and there's so many brands. Like, I mean, I went 2 hours to get my motorcycle, and it was the experience that I wanted. You know what I mean? And I didn't have to haggle. I mean, I got a much better deal than I would have gotten anywhere else. They made a great experience. It happened to be Katie's birthday. We were talking to the owner, and the owner's like, "It's your birthday? Well, come on, let's go." He takes her over to Motor Clothes and just goes, "Pick something out for your birthday, whatever you want. It's yours." I was like,
dang, I never get that.
yeah. And I was like, looking at
the dealership on your birthday now.
Yeah.
But talking about great dealerships. So we bought her bike at Pig Trail Harley-Davidson. It's a half day. It's 4+ hours to get there. We got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, headed down there on a trailer because it was in February. It was still, weather wasn't great and stuff. And we picked it up and we brought it back. But Kyle Johnson's the general manager for Pig Trail. I've built a relationship with him because I've done some stuff on YouTube with him first it was about bikes, blues, and barbecue. But then when Harley-Davidson came out with the reservation system, he came on my channel. He talked about it, explained to people how it was going to work, things like that. We've built this relationship. And when we were looking for a bike, quite honestly, I messaged the dealers that I know and I have a relationship and say, "Hey, we're looking for this. Do you have anything?" And Kyle had sent us a picture of the bike and she was kind of interested. And we found a private individual selling one that we were going to go look at maybe. And I had not gotten a price from Kyle on it. And I just messaged him back and said, "Hey, Kyle, I know you have one. Do you still have that bike? And if you do, would you be willing to give me an idea what you got to have for it? We're looking at one from a private dealer, but I'd rather buy from someone I have a relationship with and I know than from a stranger." He shot me back a price and I said, "Are you open on Monday?" And it was that simple. And
it was a holiday.
Yeah, Monday was a holiday. I was off work and he's like, "Yeah, we'll be open that Monday." And so a week later, we drove down there. She'd already got pre-approved online for the financing. We did the paperwork, no hassle over price or anything else. Got the bike and came home.
I mean, and that to me, I think is maybe it's because I've gotten older, but the price is one thing. Obviously, you can only afford to pay what you can pay. But when you get that experience and it becomes something, it's like, you know what? I walked out and I didn't feel like somebody like took advantage of me. It was actually fun.
Right. You have to be within your budget, but price isn't everything. I used to have a manager who I dealt with vendors, and he always wanted me to renegotiate the contract every year and get a better deal and a better deal and a better deal. Well, after 4 or 5 years, I'm raking the vendor over the coals so hard that they're not making no money on it. You know what happens? Customer service goes through the floor.
Yeah.
And you got no customer service. And I said, and the next time you come to me, I'm like, I can't get no more savings out of them. I said, if I do anything else, they're going to block my phone calls. They're not making no money off me now, and I'm getting poor customer service. There's nowhere else to go with this. You've got all the blood you're going to get from this turnip. Quit squeezing them. And he's like, okay, but you do that in a relationship. If one side abuses it too much, then it's no longer a beneficial relationship for both sides. It falls apart. Both businesses have to get something out of it. They got to stay in business. You got to get a deal you can live with, that you're happy with, or whatever else. And, the trick is finding a dealership or whatever it is where you can both be happy with the situation.
Sure. Because at the end of the day, if you walk away and you're happy and you're having, because I know people that bought cars and they were negotiating price for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't know how much you make, but you didn't save 2 weeks worth of time. I mean, you just didn't. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's but it again, it speaks to being, people that want to be part of that community. You know what I mean? We stayed overnight to buy a dealership, the bike there, and it paid off. So, and I think that, to your point, it's, if you can talk to somebody, especially when you can do it over the phone. I mean, I talked to a guy when we were looking at this bike. I talked to a guy and he's like, "I'll send you some pictures." He sends me this like bizarre picture of the bike. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't in focus. It wasn't, because I asked him, I said, look, I just want pictures of all 4 sides of the bike and the odometer. And he sends me a picture of like the front forks to show me they were chewed up a little bit. I'm like, what? This isn't what I asked for. You know, it's like, and then the next guy the guy where I bought it from, he's like, oh, we're going to need a few minutes. The bike's dead on the floor. I'm like, okay. Well, what I didn't know is not only was the bike dead, they replaced the battery and they went and detailed it before they sent me pictures because they wanted to make sure I got the best pictures possible. I'm like, see, there's somebody who wants to sell a bike.
Right.
You know, treat me like my money's worth something, you know, and that's really important.
When we bought her bike, the front tire wasn't bad, but it had maybe 9,000 miles on the bike, or 7,000 when you bought it?
7,000.
7,000. So it probably had 7,000 miles on the tire. It wasn't bad, but he wanted to put a new front tire on, but he couldn't get one to match the rear.
He'd already put the back on.
He'd already put the rear on, but he couldn't get one to match it in the front yet. And he's like, well, if you buy the bike, bring it back and we'll put a front tire on it. Part of the deal. Price includes that. So, we went back down there for spring fling 2 weeks later. We had to spend a few hours, 2 months later. And we had to spend a few hours at the dealership and wait for him to get it in because we got there early because it was raining and stuff. But, they put a new front tire on it. It was part of the deal. He wanted to make sure that the bike came out of there in the, best way possible for her. He promised her that as part of the deal and the price. And, he's like, messaging me, when are you going to be here? To make sure we get you set up with a service appointment. So, all this stuff. And
we showed up early and they were trying to get it in early. They really were, but they just couldn't because they already had appointment. But hey, they got another $300 out of me for the benefit that I spent there. So it worked out for them.
But, Kyle, we told him about the benefit and he's like, when it gets close, message me. I'll send you gift cards.
Yeah.
The last benefit we did, he sent me, he'd said something and volunteered to do Harley-Davidson gift cards for his dealership. And I said, sure. And he says, how's $250?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. I mean, I'd have been happy with a $50 or $100 gift card.
Sure.
And, but that's the kind of, that's why, part of why, though, I message him and say, what do you have before I go buy something else, from somewhere else? Yeah. He's been good to us. He's been good to my channel. So I try and do business with him.
Well, and you struck on a very good point that I don't think a lot of people realize, that your loyalty goes a long way. Like, if you stick with a product or you stick with a brand, it goes a long way, because there's so many channels that are buying the new hotness every day. They got a new helmet from some new dealer or brand. It's crazy. I'll get off that soapbox because that won't end well for me. But yeah, it's all
right. I've had a few companies who have given me free products to do videos on them. And I'm at the point with my channel now that I have to be a little more picky. I've turned some down. I'm like, I'm sorry, but this video's, I did one recently for jewelry. I knew it wasn't going to do really well as far as views, but the guy gave me 6 pieces of jewelry and we're going to donate 4 of them. One's going to go in the auction at this benefit, and the other 3 I'm giving away to my subscribers. I looked at it as an opportunity to get something that I could give back to my community. Yeah. So I agreed to it and did it for the purpose of giving back, But yeah, I'm at the point where, like, some vendors or some products, I did a headlight video, and it was an Amazon headlight. And I was honest with it, and it's sold like hotcakes. I've got an Amazon affiliate link. I can tell you, that I've sold, 60 headlights in the last year for this company based off my Amazon affiliate link, not counting all the ones that were bought where they didn't use my link, or they didn't buy it within, they put in a wish list and went back and bought it a week later and I got nothing for it. But, I get all kind, every other month I was getting a solicitation to do a headlight video. I'm like, bro, I've done a headlight video. I can't do another one. I'm not just doing it to get a free headlight or something else. I did one. It was an experience for me. I learned how to do a video on that, and it was a good product I was interested in. And I was really surprised how much difference there was between the one I bought 5 years later from the one I bought in 2016.
I thought your heated gear video was great. I like the fact you had the timer going, and it was like, man, that's a thorough review.
But, and people don't realize, but you knew how many I had 2 failures where, like, I didn't have the camera plugged in because I didn't expect the heated gear to last that long. So the camera failed, this and that. I did that whole rundown on 3 different settings and how long it will last. I spent 7 days, 7 nights doing recordings trying to get that right,
Yep.
and it didn't do that well in videos, but that's not the point. I don't gauge what to do in the video on how well I think it'll do. I do the best I can do no matter what the results are going to be as far as views.
No, and I think that's how it should be, right? If you put the work into it, it rewards you one way or the other. Skipping's not, because it's always, especially with install videos, it's always easier to be like, oh, just watch somebody else's video, but here it is.
And I don't know I don't have it all figured out. I don't know that here's the right way to do one. I'm not Chase on 2 wheels. He's done enough. I'm sure has a plan for them all. I just do them. And then, sometimes and that's one reason I do some of the stuff like a talking head. I'll record me doing stuff, but if it doesn't turn out to be what I thought it was at the time, when I go do a talking head at the end, I can put all my thoughts and things together, what I've learned about it after actually using it and everything else. And then just use the clips of doing the install or whatever as B-roll and talking about it, but I think it's really hard to, when you're doing an install or a review of a product, you have one anticipated, result, and it may not turn out to be the same way. The CC rider seat, I didn't know how they would feel about it, but I was honest that first couple of weeks, I wasn't sure I could like that thing. The very first time I sat on it, I looked at her and I'm like, this thing feels like a board with a piece of leather over it.
Yeah.
But I was coming off of a big plush touring seat.
It looked good on the bike though.
Doesn't it though? The one they sent me has got that red stitching, and I was like, oh, this looks amazing.
I need one with purple stitching.
Well, that's gonna be hard to find though. They need to work on that for you.
Yeah. Maybe we can get CC Rider to do
I need 2 of them actually. I need one for the purple Dyna to match the purple Dyna, and then I need one for my new bike.
That'd be cool.
A custom seat, custom order.
But yeah, it's the least they can do for you.
Yeah, sure.
I'll get there. I'll buy one. I just,
but it's an amazing community, and I've learned from and this is like something I would talk about on the MT channel, but I've also learned that sometimes you got to say no to deals. If somebody wants to give you something, you have to start thinking about, does this really something my viewers are interested in? Is this really worth my time and effort? Is it going to be, and is it any good for the company to give you a product for you to do a video on and they get nothing out of it either, Well,
that, and I think, understanding where I think a lot of these companies they want the publicity, and I had said to a company that offered to send me a helmet. It was like an $80 helmet. It wasn't anything crazy. I'm like, all right, but just so you're aware, I said, and I don't want to be rude, I run a showy. So understand that my opinion is going to be based on the fact that I run a showy. So it might not be in your best interest to send me this helmet. Right. Because if I'm running a showy and maybe your helmet's safe, but safe is subjective. But if it's not that quality, I don't want to trash it. You know what I mean? I don't want to trash it when it may be very good for what it is, but I haven't been able to do it.
I got the opportunity to talk to Adam Sandoval at Spring Fling. He was
very
down
nice.
There also, and we got to hang out with him at the cathouse, kind of in a private setting. And I kind of asked him about the brand deal thing a little bit and picked his brain just a little bit, not to bother him too much, but he said he's made a lot of mistakes, he's learned a lot, and he said I just tell him, do you want to send me something? You can send me something, and if I like it, I'll do a video on it, and if I don't, I won't, because you don't want me to do a video on it if I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's the double-edged sword too as a creator, right? We've all seen the infamous Rurock videos, right, where people just trashed it and they got a gazillion views because they trashed the Rurock. But there's that part of me that thinks that if you do that too much, or I feel like everything has a middle ground, and at least for me, it's like I don't want to trash something for the views, because then you're affecting anyone else potentially looking at your channel and being like, well, this guy's just going to go for blood. Maybe we need to find a happy medium.
Right. So you mentioned the heated gear video. That was Kimmy Moto. I have done 3 or 4 videos for Kimmy Moto. I've had 2 different people from their company contact me, not realizing the other person already worked with me. And, you know, they just recently sent me something they wanted me to do a video on, and they gave me like 6 things to pick from. I'm like, yeah, none of them are a go.
Yeah.
Nothing personal, but 3 of them I've already done. And 1 of them I've done for a different brand. And I'm not interested in doing the other 2. They're not really something I would put on my bike. So I wouldn't do a video on it. And I said, the only product you've got on your site right now that I would be interested in is this. If you want to do a video on that, then let me know. And they were like, okay. You know, I mean, sometimes I think, especially when we're small, we don't realize we have negotiating power. You know, that because they offer you something, and if you don't want to do it, you say no, and that's the end of the relationship. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
No.
Yeah. I've had, you know, somebody sent me a contract to want me to do something, and there was something in the timeline. I mean, you know, I've started now where they want, you know, like a signed agreement kind of thing. And there was something in the timeline. I'm like, CC Rider is a prime example. When they first sent me, they wanted a video like in 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't do that.
Yeah.
If I can't ride the product, test the product, and have it long enough that I feel I can make a, you know, reasonable, honest opinion and give people a review of it, then I won't do it. I can't, you know, get your product in and ride that seat and make a video in 2 weeks and put it out and have any real amount of time on the seat to give anybody a real review. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I can't go out and ride it for a week, and I wouldn't even if I could, you know, because my time's more valuable than just go ride your seat for a week so I can make a video a week later.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I don't like with a lot of these channels is they're very aggressive companies. They're very aggressive, and you're like, okay, what, you know, 2 weeks is not enough time for anything. I can give you my first impressions, but what does that mean? My Harley hammock seat's a classic example of it. I loved that seat when we got it. 2 years later, it came off the bike because I hated it. But my opinion still is valid. When we got it, I loved it. It was great. But 2 years later, it just wasn't the same seat.
Right. And, you know, and that's the thing. I always try and tell people how long I've had it, how much I've used it. You know, the Kimi Moto vest, heated vest, they'd liked it. They didn't have a timeline on that. They'd like to have it sooner. But, I mean, it's a heated vest. I got to test it in the winter. And to be honest, you don't ride a lot in the winter. I mean, I ride some, but I don't ride every day in the winter. So I didn't have every day to go out and test it and film. I mean, I wore it to a clubhouse party that we didn't take the bike, and everybody's in their place freezing, and I'm walking around in a heated vest with a bunch of, you know, club members, and they're like, what are you wearing? What's that? Why is that thing glowing? I'm like, because I got a heated vest on. And they're all over in the corner by the propane heater trying to warm up their hand. You know,
to get me out of the way.
When New Jersey only had outside dining during the great thing, I had my heated jacket on, and people were looking at me like I'm a Power Ranger because it's glowing. I'm like, this thing's great. Best money ever spent.
You know, but yeah, like the you know, working with brands or companies that want you to do a video and stuff, I've kind of got to the point I have enough confidence. I feel like I've built my channel enough that I'm not afraid to say no. I can make another video on something else, and I'll be just as well off as a channel and growing my channel.
Yep.
I don't necessarily need that product to do that. If it's a product I think my audience will like, or it's a product I'm truly interested in and would like to test it out and see, like this, we got a tail bag from Kimi Moto. It's a $200 product. I mean, they started out offering me a cup holder, you know, and I'm like,
well, you negotiated well on that one.
Yeah. Well, and then they wanted, you know, they wanted me to take pictures of it. Now, I've never had anybody ask for like social media pictures, but they, not for me to post them. They want me to take pictures of them and then give them my photos.
Yes.
Send them my photos. And that's the first time I'd had that happen. I'm like, so you're asking me to give you my content with no credit to me. I said, that's another point of negotiation we're going to have to discuss.
Well, and I had that recently too. It was, well, we want you to do the video and we're going to put it on our YouTube channel. I'm like, all right, are you linking it? No, we're taking the video. I'm like, no, that's.
Well, here's what you do.
I'm losing here, buddy.
What you say is, well, okay, I'm not going to make ad revenue off that video. When you do that, how are you going to compensate me for that? And
yes, because at the end of the day, the free item is great, but when you look at your time and everything else, you know, there needs to be a break point. Hey, Badgers, how you doing? Yeah, and I had somebody email me the other night. I got all excited. It was an e-bike company, and it goes on about how they have these e-bikes and they're pedal assisted e-bike. And I'm reading this email and like, this is going to be the greatest review ever. They wanted me to review their $30 action camera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, way to bury that. I mean, I've been scrolling through this email, all excited, thinking of all my adventures. And I'm like, oh, it's a camera. Never mind.
Yeah. So I guess my thing for anybody that's watching, or for you or whoever can learn from it, but I mean, if somebody sends you something and it's not a good deal for you, don't be afraid to say no, but also don't be afraid to go back to them and say, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. You know, they wanted me to use their link to the product. I said, if I can't use my own Amazon affiliate link, I'm probably not going to do it, because the fact is this video is not going to perform as well as some of my other videos. And the only way I'm going to lose money essentially, because I'm going to have a poorly performing video to do this for you, and I'm putting all this time and effort into it. I at least need to be able to use my own Amazon affiliate link. So if someone does buy it, I make a small 3% commission off of it. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. You can do that. You know?
The other thing that I found too, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, because people always ask you, I'm sure you get the same thing. Well, I started a channel now with free stuff. Okay. Well, number one, it doesn't work that way. But number two, what is your plan? Like what are you giving the company? Are do you have a plan on what you plan on doing? Because I think if you come to a company, like you said, if you counter and say, well, maybe how about this? And I could do this with it. It's a lot better than being like, well, I just want this. And why do you want it?
Well, what's in it for me?
Yeah. It's and see, doing something like a flat fee, because doing video production, that's how it's all based on, right? We don't care what you're doing with it. We need the time to absorb our equipment, our time, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I create a rate card, that's based on my average amount of views, things like that. It's kind of like charging a flat fee. Mine's a range, and the range varies depending on what they want, and things like that. And I get a lot of solicitations from companies who just want to give me a product, me to do a video. And I've gotten to the point that that's not always, beneficial for me as it is for them.
Sure.
If it's a product I was really excited about, whatever, then I might do it anyway. Even if it's not monetarily beneficial, if I think it serves my audience well. But, it's a struggle, and I think especially a lot of small channels they get an offer for something. They think, wow, somebody's noticing me.
Yes.
And they want to jump on that because it kind of validates that their work is paying off. But you also have to watch that at some point you can drag your growth down, or, I made somebody wanted me to make a video on, I can't remember what it was, a pressure washer or something like that. And I'm like, I don't pressure wash my bike. so
that's a weird tie-in.
So how am I going to tie this into a motorcycle channel? I'm going to leave it on low pressure and wash the bike the whole time. That's not going to be very good for your pressure washer.
Well, and I think it's like anything, right? If you come out true and authentic to your brand, I don't think you can lose. And I think you bring up a really good point, because there's so many companies that are so desperate to get somebody to do a review that, and a lot of those smaller companies are very forceful too. You lock in with them, and then you're getting an email every day. Like, where do we stand with this? The same place we did yesterday.
And I'll say this company by name because they rubbed me the wrong way. When I first started, I did something for Viking bags. I will never do it again.
I've heard a lot about that.
After I did it, then they wanted me to go out and fill out all these review sites and give it a 5-star review. And I'm like, that's not what we talked about.
No.
I said that was never in the discussion. And you don't come to me and act like you expect me to do that because you gave me a tank bag. Well, I said, if you want me to go give it a review, I'll give it a review, but it'll be whatever review I feel like. And that's only if I feel like doing it.
Yes. And I got myself into that issue in the beginning where I was like, oh my God. And it's like, you know what? It's my channel. It's my brand. If I'm not comfortable with it, it's going to wait. It's the same with doing a video, right? You do a video and sometimes it just sucks and you got to redo it. And if the shoe were on the other foot, why would it be any different? It's going to wait till it's ready. There's just not Yeah, you can't work on somebody else's timeline.
Yeah, and they don't know. I mean, I think, especially with companies that are maybe not, they don't deal with creators all the time, or maybe foreign companies that are on the other side of the pond. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I got a job. I got a teenager. I got a girlfriend. I got riding time. I've got a motorcycle rights organization group that I lead. I'm involved in, doing this rally every year. I'm lucky if I watch 2 hours of TV every 2 weeks. That's just the way my life is, and that's okay. I'm not complaining about how my life is, but it's got to be on my timeline, my priorities. I get to set my priorities. That's otherwise you get way out of balance and you'll run into problems. I don't know. Do you watch any of these channels that talk about like just being a creator and the struggles and the things? Recently Nate on Channel Makers did a video about mental health, talking about taking some time off, and I for over a year I did 2 videos a week, almost 3 on riding in the Ozarks, and last fall I cut it to 1 video a week, and I've gone sometimes 2 weeks without making a video because it's tax season. I got to do my taxes this week. I got the rally this week. I'm not going to get a video out. We're going to spring fling. If I don't get a video out, I don't get a video out. And I've had to learn to, force myself to take those breaks and prioritize things because I pushed too hard for a long time. And
and there's nothing worse than being like, hey, I want to tell you about this thing. And it's because you don't care at that point, right? You're just trying to create content and it shows.
Well, and I think you get so worried and you get into the YouTube thing of, I got to put a video out on schedule. YouTube says I have to do a video every week. I've got to be on this schedule or people are, I had somebody subscribe the other day and they said, I look forward to seeing your video every week. I said, I look forward to being able to put a video out every week if it happens. It's just the life I lead right now. I have a side business and I got a new customer and they are requiring a lot of attention and it's impacting my ability to make videos, but it pays $70 an hour. So,
and I always joke about this. The goal for me with YouTube was to get off YouTube. Like, let's face it, if Harley-Davidson offered you a job and said, hey, you're doing this stuff, we'd love to have you in our marketing team. That to me is a win. You know what I mean? Like this is only a hobby. And if you let it dictate your life, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah, for me, it's a little different. I have a job that I hope I spend the next 16 years at and retire from. So I'm not looking for a new career. YouTube for me, probably one of the things that inspired me to do it is a gentleman I know who was older, who got on medication. He couldn't ride anymore. He had balance issues. Would see videos that I was doing. I would just
that's awesome.
Record with the GoPro and put music on. And he's like, I live vicariously through your stuff. And I watch you on Facebook because it reminds me of the things I used to get to do that I don't get to do anymore. So then I decided to make a little more professional attempt at it with riding in the Ozarks. And it's really about, having, that doing that for the audience and sharing this experience and bringing that to other people or sharing it with people that may not be able to do it anymore. But again, at the end of the day, you got to have your bills paid. You got to leave the lights got to be on. So if I got to work, then that's what I got to do. Do you videos have Firecracker do your videos, Mike? If I could get her to do my videos, that'd be great. I think it turns out the other way around a lot, though. I do. I help with the editing.
Okay.
I think my thing is I want to do videos of me experiencing things and things that I enjoy in life, but I don't take the time to record, to be honest with you. That's my downfall. Mike's always like, you need to put a video out, and I get that. But, when we go places on our vacations, I'm more interested in having fun with my friends and, and there's times that I am the entertainment for the night, which the River Bluff Baggers and all of them know that. But I'm more in the moment when I'm having fun with my friends and got some drinks in me, but some of it's probably not the good things to put out on a video, to be honest, but I'm more comfortable then and I'm more myself.
Sure.
And like if we did a video on just the bloopers of me trying to do one video, I'm telling you right now, it would probably last probably 4 hours. And I don't have that many videos because I am Mike's constantly having to stop me and say, no, and help me through them because I just am so uncomfortable in being filmed. I am just very self-conscious.
She's like, what should I say? What should I say?
Yeah. Well, and I need to get more into doing videos of me doing things that I enjoy. And I think but I just don't like to, I want to enjoy this stuff, not make it a job when I'm going them places.
Well, and I think that's a generational thing too, where we grew up in a time where we didn't have that. So it's not like it's something we've always had. And I think a lot of people think, well, it wasn't on Instagram, so it didn't really happen. It didn't. I mean, it was awesome just because I didn't post about it.
Right. The Freedom Rally, Jay made a video about that. I had a camera and a drone there, never broke them out. We have a rule at the rally about, respect people's privacy, not to photograph people without their permission. There's plenty of people there that will, let me photograph them. I had plenty of friends there that I could have put in a video and I could have done something, but I had other things to do there that were my priority. It was running the rally and making sure people that came there had a good time and stuff. But, I used to get accused a few years ago of like, my friends were like, every time we go somewhere, you got a camera in somebody's face. I don't do that near as much now, do I?
No.
I mean,
when he first started and he was doing, it's our vacation. Like we plan our vacation. Yeah, we're going to events. And I was just getting so upset because that's what it was. It became about YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not what this is about for me. And, we had some arguments over it. And then I was like, well, he enjoys doing it. And, and he does calm down. He has calmed way down on that. But I mean, there was a point he filmed every minute of everything. And I was like, you have to stop and enjoy at least some of it. You need to pick and choose certain things that you want to film and have time aside for that, but time to, and I mean, it was for the first year, it was, it was pretty, I mean, I was pretty upset over it, but now I realize when he's doing it, he's got a point to he's doing it. And then he just, then he goes and enjoys and does stuff. And,
I've learned to manage it a lot better. You also learn that it doesn't do any good to record 12 hours of footage to make a 6-minute video.
Right.
Learn to pick and choose, but some of that you learn with experience, especially when you're going to an event and you're afraid you're going to miss something. You're trying to record everything. And then you realize I don't need to get you everything. I just need to get enough that they get the impression of what the event's like.
Sure.
My favorite part about it is it has turned us on to going to different places that we hadn't been before. But not only that, we have met some amazing people, and it kind of is cool to have somebody walk up to you. I mean, there was one time we were somewhere and they recognized me before Mike, and I didn't even have a channel then, but they recognized me from the video before they recognized Mike, but it's amazing because you meet people and, like when Mike put out the video of my accident, one guy came up to me and thanked me for letting Mike put that video of my accident out, because it was a learning lesson. And, my whole thing is my accident was my fault. I know wholeheartedly that was my fault. That was my mistake. But if it saves one person's life, then that makes a difference,
Sure.
And that guy, that's the way he was. I mean, there's people out there that can be down on you for it or whatever. And Mike, that's why Mike didn't want to put the video out. And I was like, no, if it helps one person, then it was worth it, And there were people that made comments and you just got to brush them off. It's kind of hard because I'm, a firecracker. But, I just left it alone. But, we have met some amazing people. We've become friends with some great people. We've gotten to go experience things that we might not have ever experienced if it wasn't for YouTube. So I think it's been great for us, we've gotten a lot out of it.
That's awesome.
Stubborn Americans probably not something we would have done if we weren't involved in the YouTube community. Yeah. We had a great time there. We met, River Bluff Baggers, hung out with them there at Stubborn American last year. They came down for the Spring Fling rally, and then they're going to be at this $5,000 poker run next weekend. So we'll see those guys now. They're 4 or 5 hours from us, but we'll see them probably, 3 or 4 times a year, at least every year now. We'll find events that we can all go to and meet up and hang out at. JS is going to be the same way. He's 4 or 5 hours from me, but if I'm going Arkansas direction, or if there's something worthwhile up here, then he'll come up here. And, Ozark HD Riders, I met early on. He's, less than 2 hours from me and stuff. And we call each other and we talk. And Randy Sinister Clutch, I met him when he came through on the world record. Well, actually, he came to Bikefest, and then I met him again at the world record poker run. And we text each other. We call each other once in a while. We, bounce ideas off each other. And those relationships, having that, someone else that's a content creator that you can share and work with and talk to is a big deal. Because
absolutely.
Everybody else doesn't understand what we're doing.
That one.
No.
I enjoy if people see us and say hello. And I mean, and, we've been places and they just come up and, hey, it's kind of nice to meet people. Most people enjoy if they do, they're somebody that likes to watch Mike's channel. And so it's nice to hear their feedback. I mean, and know that they're supporting you,
I look at it as, I tell everybody, if we're going to be an event, I try and let people know when we're going to be an event, because we'll have people say, hey, I want to come ride with you. Well, we're going to be at the $5,000 poker run. That's in Kansas City. If you know who Holler Moto is or Chopper Fett, they're in that area. I messaged them both on Instagram and said, hey, I'm finally going to be up your way. I don't know if you're going to have any time this weekend, but we're going to be at this event. If you can come to a start, stop somewhere in the middle or whatever, if we get a chance to say hi, here's how to get a hold of me. But meeting other creators is nice. But also, meeting the regular everyday people that watch your channel is, and getting the opportunity to say thank you to them is big to me.
Absolutely.
I thank everybody that comes up and says, hey, I watch your channel. I'm like, thank you for watching my channel, because if you didn't watch my channel, there would be no channel.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you really are reliant on those people, and it's the least you can do to take some time out to respond to a comment or email.
We always try to take stickers with us or poker chips and give those out. I mean, I don't want to come off as like, oh, you should want my sticker. But I asked people, I said, would you like a sticker? And almost everybody wants a sticker, or something.
Stickers are big.
Yeah. So it's just something they can remember with. I mean, probably recently we had somebody want to take their picture with us, and that was the first time I've had like somebody like, oh, can I have my picture with you? And I'm like, why is that? Oh, you want to take a picture with me? Okay. If that's what makes you happy, then sure.
Yeah.
Awkward. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's really awesome.
I never expected that though from YouTube. That's not. I'm not looking for fame or fortune. I want my channel to do well, but only because I want it to be doing stuff for the community, not because I want to be famous.
Yes. Well, and I think that speaks back to doing the right reasons, right? If you're doing it to give back, I think it's a huge win. If you're doing it for self-gain, who knows? I mean, who knows what's really going to happen with that? But
I mean, it's a give back, but it's also not necessarily even, I don't know if it's always a give back as so much as to share some experience with something. Like the Badgers had a bad experience with the dealership with the whole tire thing, and they shared that experience. That wasn't so much, I would say, as giving back to the community as sharing information with the community about a problem they ran into. And if you have that, you don't have to just say, you don't have to bend over and take it. You here's what we did to, we went somewhere else and this was the outcome, and it was a favorable outcome in the end, and we saved money. But, so it's sharing with the community, it's giving to the community, and stuff, but it's helping people, in some way or another, trying to, or just, Monkey's entertaining, Shade Tree Surgeon's entertaining. I tell people all the time, I'm not entertaining, so I got to depend on being informational.
Yes, I get it. That's awesome. So I guess if we wrap this up, check out your channel, both of your channels, which hopefully folks do. And I'll put those in the description. Yeah, the fundraiser coming up, which if you guys could donate to that would be awesome. Or if you know a company that could help out, I think it's all about giving back. Anything else you want to talk about?
I'll just run through real quick. We've got big ass poker run this weekend.
Nice.
The benefit into July. If you're coming to Bikefest in September, we'll have a meet and greet in September at the Ice Hole on Saturday at Bikefest at Lake of the Ozarks. That's 100,000 plus people rally. And
Jeez.
then we'll also be at Stubborn American. We reserved our campsite before we left last year.
And we'll be
right there by Ozark HT Riders, 9 Mills, the River Bluff Baggers,
and
nice.
K.s.A. We'll all be camping together. So, come down and have some hooch with us. We'll have moonshine for sure. And,
nice.
And then we have.
I'm in.
And then we have Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. We've already got our reservations for that. So those are events we will be at. And, like CJ was saying, he thought somebody was just wanted to enjoy the show and didn't want to be bothered. If you see us, unless she's like trying to beat me over the head with something and looks mad, feel free to come up and say hi. We truly want to, say thank you for supporting the channel and for watching the content and stuff. So don't ever feel like you're intruding. That's
great. It's awesome you guys are giving back. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Mike Firecracker, thank you so much. This has been, we could talk all night at this rate. This is great. I love the interaction. So, and Mike, I really appreciate what you're doing on YouTube. I think you're providing a lot of information. It's great and good stuff, and you're obviously giving back to the community. So I hope the fundraiser goes well. Hopefully, maybe I can. Let's see if I can't get there, but that'd be awesome. So if you guys want to hang around a second in the green room, you can. But for you guys listening, thank you very much. Same time next week. Everybody's doing well. Please remember you're not alone. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend.